You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 17th part of What If Deku and Hero Academia joins Power Rangers. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of GokuMuto on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. UA, high school classroom 1B morning. Meanwhile, at the same time in the other hero course classroom, news of Ren and Midoriya's relationship with girls from both classes, much to all the boys' shock as the girls haven't arrived yet. No freaking way, man. How is that even possible? Tetsu asked with widened eyes. You're shitting us, are you? Kosei asked in disbelief at what he and the other boys of class 1B just heard. Nope, it 100% accurate, Oe stated in calm manner as he sat at his desk. Ren and Midoriya are dating the girls from both classes. But how? Shota asked as he was a bit calmer than most of the other boys in the room. The hell if I know. It just happened, Oe said, shrugging his shoulders. Besides, it's not my place to say. Then it's best to ask the girls when they arrive to confirm the facts, so this doesn't end up being a misunderstanding, Shishida suggested while pushing up his glasses. Oh, I can't believe what I'm hearing right now, Monoma shouted while standing up from his chair fuming. How did we let it get to this stage? How could we allow something like this to happen under our noses? He started to angrily rant something about Class 1A again, much to everyone else's annoyance. Monoma, my dude, I know this is kind of shocking and all. I'm dumbstruck too when I first learned it, trust me, but I think you're barking at the wrong tree, Oase said, trying to calm down his classmate. Don't you see, Oase? This is clearly a challenge to us. That damned Class 1A. No, Midoriya, Izuku and Ren Amamiya. We can't let this slip by. Monoma protested to the bots. I kinda agree this can't be simply ignored, but your reasons are kinda off. Ren said to him. Who cares about the reasons? And for whatever was happening in there, anyway. Kiwaro said nonchalantly. Really, Kiwaro? Doesn't it bother you that two Class 1 are getting intimate with our classmates? Monoma questioned him, to which Kiwaro shrugged. If they were with them, it was because they wanted to, so it's not my problem. Kiwaro said without much care. Aw, come on, not even a bit. Monoma argued back. I don't know, so many girls after them. There has to be a reason behind it, Sen said with a questionable look. Are you saying Midoriya and Ren did something to force them? Shota asked. I mean, that doesn't happen normally, does it? Sen said to the guys. Fair enough, but Midoriya and Ren don't look like the kind of guys to pull a dirty trick to get girls' attention. Juzo pointed out to them. Yeah, the guys are way too nice and modest to do something like that to others. Bondo agreed with a nod. TCH, to think I let him infiltrate so easily, that serves to show we can't let our guard down when it comes to 1A. Monoma grumbled to himself. Oase, you better start working out. We're going to get ourselves a harem double the size of Midoriya's and Ren's. What the hell? Why me too? Oase yelled out in shock at the question. More sounds of metal clanking. Think, Oase, think. You're on the same team as them. Doesn't it make you mad that they've stolen Kodai and Kendo from you? Monoma said, egging him on. Not really. Besides, Yui and Kendo already had a thing for them a long time ago, Oase said nonchalantly, as was aware of their feelings for the two boys for some time now. I thought you liked one of them, Monoma assumed. No, I liked Yaoyorozu. But it can't be helped since she liked Ren, Oase said to him, making the blonde's eyes widen. What? Why in the world would you like that rich girl from 1A? Monoma asked angrily. I found her attractive, okay, so lay off of me, dude, Oase said as he was getting annoyed by Monoma. It's an obvious power move to make. Assert your dominance, Monoma declared. Whoa, hold on just a second, Manga said, writing a very big speech bubble, and got himself into the conversation to prevent it from escalating out of control. We should all just calm down now and wait for the girls to get here to hear their side of the story before jumping the gun. But Monoma had other thoughts in mind as he took this time to shine with a full audience. It's war, then. You all, we're getting ourselves a harem, Monoma declared. Needless to say, none of them understood what the blonde boy was talking about, and while tried to ignore the headaches forming from this conversation. Yeah, and I'm gonna fly to the moon on a unicorn. Rin said sarcastically, with a deadpan tone and face. Monoma, it's too early in the morning for your nonsense. It's not nonsense, this is a task we must accomplish. Ren and Midoriya, those bastards, they clearly planned ahead since our class has more girls. Monoma said as he had a crazy look in his eyes now. I'm declaring war on 1A, especially Ren and Midoriya for making a harem out of my classmates. Each and every one of the boys looked at him as if he had grown a second head that shot lasers from its eyes. This shall not stand well. Blam. The sound of something in the classroom silences Monoma's rant. Apparently, out of nowhere, Kamakiri, who's been quiet this whole time, slammed his arm onto his desk as the conversation he didn't want to part off was getting on his damn nerves. Would you please shut the hell up already, Monoma? Kamakiri shouted at the blonde boy with anger and irritation. Nobody here gives two shits about who Ren and Midoriya are dating, he said to him, making Monoma step back in shock at how his own classmate talked to him like that. And as if decided by fate, the door gently opened. It revealed each one of the girls of Class 1B walking in the room, with some of them a bit concerned after they heard shouting coming from their classroom. Oi, what is going on here? Kendo said as she was the first to ask. It's too early for all this shouting. Kendo. Monoma didn't let her finish, marching up to the class rep and firmly grabbing her shoulders. Are you and the other girls okay? He asked. That's what all the girls said in utter confusion, as they didn't exactly expect to hear that from the boy. What are you talking about, Monoma? Kendo asked as she was a bit weirded out by his behavior. I'm talking about how those Class 1 fiends Ren and Midoriya seduce you girls into a relationship with them. Monoma asked, making all of the girls' eyes widen in surprise and understand meant by his question, as they knew something like this was going to happen sooner or later. Kendo looked at him with a look of uncomfortableness before speaking up. Oh right, that. Look, I know you have questions, but hear us out. Are you hurt? Did he do something to you? Monoma asked her again. We're fine, Monoma, everyone is. What did they do? Does the both of them have something against you girls? I swear, I'll beat those bastard liars until... Monoma, stop, Kendo said, pushing his arms away. He, of course, was confused and angry, but Kendo quickly followed. We're not doing this here. Doing what? Monoma said in confusion. This interrogation and round of assumptions, and the consequential witch hunt that follows, Kendo said, with the other girls nodding in agreement. The girls knew that once the boys from both classes learned about their relationship with Ren and Midoriya, they would pretty much react like this. Kendo had to admit it was very uncommon to see a single guy with so many girls at once. Again, just by how the copy teen reacted, she predicted the direction this talk would take, and rather than have to clear the reputation of her beloved, the gingerhead preferred to simply get over it and tell them the truth, regardless of any damage her or the other girl's image could take. So she took in a deep breath to still her heart. It is exactly what it looks like, Monoma. Me, Shizaki, Pony, Ryuko, and Kanoko, we've all started dating Izuku at the same time with Toru. Tsuyu and Ochako. Kendo confessed to the guys as best she could. In the end, she told them as they planned, with a few of them blushing from the truth being revealed. But needless to say, the male of the class were all shocked. Seriously, Manga asked with a shocked expression written on his bubble. With Midoriya and Rin said, stuck with a dumbfounded face. Yeah, she's not lying, Satsuna said, rubbing the back of her head from the awkward atmosphere right now. While I, Yui, Momo, Mina, and Jiro are dating Ren at the same time too. Wait, let's get something straight here, so all of you are sharing the same guy? Kosai asked as he scratched his head. Yes, we've all started to like them and agreed to share them, Shizaki struggled to say, as the Christ inside of her was still coming to terms with all of this. Then we told them how we felt around the weekend, when we were out of school, and then you already know that rest of the story, Pony said, playing with her hair a bit in a shy manner, with Kanoko quietly nodding with a nervous expression. Yui said with her usual blank expression. You're lying, Monoma growled through gritted teeth ferociously. There's no chance that you girls would come onto a querulous loser and plain-looking guys like them. They're obviously tricking you girls of forcing you into this against you. Okay, Monoma, I'm gonna stop you right there. Kendo interrupted him with a glare, making him switch his expression to her in shock and outrage. Midoriya and Ren didn't lie, or are they tricking us? We were the ones coming on to them, pressuring them into this. They aren't at fault here. However, Monoma wasn't convinced by this and spoke out again. Kendo, obviously no, they're not gaslighting us, or manipulating us, or tricking us, or using a quirk on us or anything. It's as it's been saying, Monoma. The only thing they did was be themselves, and we fell in love with them for it, Kendo said with seriousness as she crossed her arms. Now I suggest you drop this topic and accept our relationship with them. We still got a lot we need to discuss between us. You guys can't possibly be serious, Monoma said, whipping his gaze around, hoping to see a sympathetic look on anyone's face but not finding one. Yes, we are, man. Now shut it already, and quit being an asshole just because you have some kind of hate boner for the other class. Away said that he was tired of him disrespecting his friends and teammates' relationships like that. After explaining their reasons to them, every boy in the room had similar perplexed faces. The only exception was Monoma, who was still frustrated and confused by this whole situation. Now that the show was over, their attention turned to the group of girls. Pony and Kanoko felt particularly anxious, being under the gaze of their peers, while Shizaki was going through all the shades of red and Yui just had her usual flat expression on her face. Since Kendo broke the ice, Setsuna took it into her hands to make things clear. That's it. Did you guys get the message, or do you want me to get the juicy details? They shook their heads vigorously. Anyone else has a problem with that? She asked. Well, coming from you, that's kind of expected, Shota said, and the boys nodded in agreement. Oi, what's that supposed to mean? Setsuna asked, being a little offended. Kinoko and Pony are a surprise, though. I never thought they were, into it. Sen stated with air quotes. Don't ignore me, what's that supposed to mean? Setsuna comically yelled back. No, isn't Shizaki the most surprising one here? Juzo added, and all the eyes fell upon the Vine girl, much to her embarrassment. And here I thought you were the pure one. As long as our love remains pure, there are no problems for me, Shizaki said, looking away in embarrassment. Piss off, you lot. You wish you could be as good as my man one day, Setsuna said with a hand on her hip and a sassy tone. I think I'll pass. Just hearing about it makes this harem idea look very troublesome. Kamakiri said, not caring about this one bit, as turned his attention back to the front of the class, with everyone else following suit. Wait. Is no one else seeing how serious this situation is? Monoma asked while watching incredulously as the boys went to their desks one by one. Like I said, I don't really care what they do with Midoriya, Ren, or whoever, as long as they're fine with it. That's not my problem, Kirwaro said, taking out his books for class. You guys really don't get it, do you? This is clearly a challenge, and I won't let one hog all the glory get away with this. The blondie shouted at them, with no one really paying attention to him anymore. Drop it, man. You heard them, Tetsu said to them as he sat down in his seat. Besides, if I'm okay with them dating anyone, then it'll be with Ren and Midoriya, since they're alright in my book, he stated, with most of the people in the room mentally agreeing with the steel quirk user. Tetsu right. It's their lives, and who they choose to date is up to them, Shishida added, and as he would like to end this conversation soon. But Class 1 needs to pay. This cannot be allowed to stand, you hear? Monoma then felt a hand on his shoulder, as it was gripping him tightly to shut the boy up from his ranting. Monoma didn't answer as his face started to sweat, nervous in fear. If he had looked back, he would have noticed every single girl in the classroom glaring at him like they would like nothing better than to beat him up. Even Ibara, the nicest girl in the whole class, stared in disgust at her classmate. Okay, Monoma, Kendo finally spat out as she was the one gripping his shoulder while feeling a cold anger fill her up. I'm going to go off on the assumption here that what you're trying to do isn't to get one over on Class 1A. But your own little twisted way to protect us, because you thought Midoriya and Ren would take advantage of us. We're going to assume that's the case because any alternative is going to result in you being beaten up by us, she said, making the boy flinch at the thought of that. If that is why you set this up, Monoma, we're willing to let this slide, due to you and your petty jealousy of our fellow hero course classmates next door. This right here was our choice to make, and we do not need your input or unnecessary stirring the pot. The ponytailed girl leaned in, being sure to fix Monoma with her best glare. So understand this, Monoma, that this will be our problem to handle. Us, not you or anyone else in the class. This is your one chance to back off and let us take care of this. If you poke your nose into our business again, I or the others won't be as nice. Monoma exchanged a glare with her before glancing around. It was clear whose side the rest of the girls were on. Pony was also pouting hard at him. Ryuko and Kinoko were giving him deadpan stares. Shiozaki looked cross, and Setsuna and Yui aimed their glares at him, being sure to show off their displeasure. As this was happening, the other guys in the classroom wisely stayed out of this, as they didn't want to be on the receiving end of the girls' wrath and hoped that it would end soon. Monoma let out a huff and whipped around, before storming to the desk and sitting down quietly, gritting his teeth in frustration, making the other boys sigh in relief that he finally got the message. What are your bets he pokes his nose in this again? Ryuko asked sarcastically while whispering to the others. 9 to -10, Setsuna shook her head, rubbing a hand through her hair. The guy is relentless, she said, sighing. and annoying to boot, Pony said, puffing up her cheeks with an angry cute look. Yui groans out in the agreement. Then why don't we do something about it? Tanoko quietly inquired, confused and a tad bit desperate. Why, you know he's in and not going to stop antagonizing the students of 1A, especially Midoriya and Ren. So why don't we just stop him ourselves? Honey, if beating up Monoma was the key to fixing this, I'd do it in a heartbeat, Kendo said, sighing while rolling her neck. But, as much as Monoma didn't make this situation any better, he isn't the reason it's bad in the first place. That's something that's on us, she admitted. True, this a trail that we must overcome together for the sake of our love, for the ones we hold dear, Shizaki told them, with them nodding in agreement. Then the door to the classroom opens up to reveal Vlad King walking in with papers in his hand. All right, students, in your seats now, Vlad King yelled, making all the girls quickly go to their desks as Blood Hero walked up to the front of the class. Good, it looks like everyone is here. Before we begin homeroom, I want to make an announcement about a new transfer student who just entered the hero course, he said, making the other students talk to themselves about the new student, except for the ranger of the class who already knew who it was. Wait, is he talking about Sayla? The 3 hero force rangers of 1B thought together. Mr. Vlad, Tetsu shouted while holding a hand in the air. Who is this new transfer student and which class are they going to be in? He asked the question that was on everyone's minds. This person was once a former villain who is now part of a rehabilitation program that the principal of the school set up not too long ago to help reform villains and vigilantes into future pro heroes, and she will be placed into class 1A starting today. Vlad King explained, making the class go silent in shock for a few seconds with wide eyes before reality finally hit them. What? Everyone except Vlad King and the 3 rangers yelled in shock at the information dropped onto them. Musutafu City afternoon. Later on that day in the city of Musutafu, it was another beautiful day. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and everything was just okay. That is for the consent villain activity in the city, as today a large pink-looking humanoid was holding a family hostage. He laughed as Mount Lady, Kamui Wood, and another hero were injured and struggling to stop the villain from hurting the family. Hahaha, don't try anything, heroes. Otherwise, this family will be in tomorrow's obituaries. He mocked as he held the family in his bulgy arm, while the hurt heroes glared at him in frustration. Damn this villain. There has to be something we can do. Kamui Wood growled as he prepared to use his wood to try and restrain the villain. Until, never fear, dear citizens. Everyone suddenly heard a cheerful voice. Then a speeding object came, rushing behind the villain from the sky, and showed it was All Might wearing a yellow suit. Missouri Smash. All Might announced his attack name with his right hand to swiftly strike the villain on the back of his neck with a karate chop, which knocked him out from behind and saved the family in the process. I am here to keep you safe, even on my morning commute to work, he said, holding the family hostages he just saved in his arms. The crowd cheered as the #1 hero stood tall and triumphant. I'm glad he helped us, but Mount Lady said as she and Kamui Wood noticed the crowd swarming the pro hero. He's going to put us out of work, Kamui said as the officers arrested the villain. That's the symbol of peace for you, the random hero said with a sigh. Thank you for your help, All Might, the officer said, saluting the pro hero. All in a day's work, All Might said, saluting before his ears picked up on a woman screaming in terror. I shouldn't be late for school, but I can't ignore someone in need, he said in a concerned tone before he jumped away in the air towards the cry for help. As the symbol of peace flew across the city, his face slightly shifted to a concerned look with deep thought. I've clearly gotten slower, All Might noticed as he wasn't as fast as he usually was. My powers have been weakening even faster since I gave one for all to young Midoriya, but I'm surprised it's only just started now. Maybe it had something to do with his ranger powers, giving a delayed reaction between myself and Midoriya, a latent interference due to him being a ranger. Whatever the case may be, all I know is that I'm pushing my hero form too far past the limits. But luckily the raid on Chisaki's hideout went far smoother than expected, even though he and a few of his subordinates got away. He thought to himself as remembered his talk with his former sidekick, Nighteye Agency Night. 1 week ago, Toshinori dressed in his hero outfit, even though it was slightly loose because he was not in hero form just yet and wanted to save his energy for the raid, was seen standing in an office across from the man he once considered his sidekick. He is a tall, lean but muscular man with rather sharp and elongated features. His shiny hair was always worn smoothed down and parted to his left, and was of a dark green color, with 3 yellow streaks towards the front, 2 on his right, and 1 on his left. His eyebrows were also yellowish, matching the rims of the triangular glasses he wore and the strikingly bright yellow irises of his stern-looking eyes. His looks gave off a sense of authority and power, as he rarely smiled and looked stern, and he always appeared to be glaring. Unusually for a pro hero, he appeared to prefer plain office clothes instead of an elaborate hero costume. His clothes, however, seemed to be quite durable, as he used them during battles and they didn't show any sign of damage or tearing. His name is Murai Sasaki, also known as Sir Nighteye. Nighteye gave off a sense of authority and power, as he rarely smiled and looked stern, and he appeared to be glaring. I have to admit, All Might, I never thought our reunion would be like this, Nighteye said as he read over the file of Eri from Detective Tsukachi. Who would have thought it would take a little girl to force us to meet each other again? Life has a strange sense of humor, I'll admit, Toshinori said as he stood across from him. It has been too long since we've had a chat. I kind of wish it wasn't about work as well, but that's the life of a hero. We can't change that, Nighteye said as he looked at his former partner, staring at the thin body. You've lost a lot of weight, he said as Toshinori shrugged his shoulders. That's what happens when your stomach is basically crushed. On the plus side, I can fit into that swimsuit in time for summer, Toshinori joked as he got a small smirk from his ex-partner. Ha, knew that would get you. You always did like jokes. That aside, let's get down to business, Nighteye said as he set the folder down, a folder that had Kai Chisaki's picture. I've been investigating this man and his group for years, searching for any solid evidence I could find, he informed Toshinori as the man sat down. I had reason to believe he was part of the distribution of the new trigger drug that's been hitting the streets. I heard about that. Wasn't it related to the instant villain incident? Toshinori asked with a cringe, as he remembered the incident where an individual was either forced or took the quirk-enhancing drug trigger. The incident was orchestrated by a quirk user who could use bees that explode to spread chaos. The user nearly used bees to destroy a section of the city, had it not been for All Might destroying the mini-bombers with his Nebraska smash. Yes, I heard that situation was ultimately resolved thanks to pro-heroes and vigilantes, correct? Nighteye asked as All Might shrugged. Wouldn't know about that part. All I did was stop some insects from blowing up the city, Toshinori said as Nighteye shook his head. Humble to the end, Nighteye said, with a small hidden smirk before it returned to his frown. In any case, I had suspicions that Kai Chisaki, a former Yakuza enforcer, would be behind some of the trigger distributions. It seemed the most logical choice, but I couldn't find anything solid on him for a while, until now that is, he stated as his knuckles started to lose their color after remembering what he read about Chisaki and Eri's files. I never imagined he would go so far as to create quirk erasing bullets from a little girl's power. The man rubbed his eyes from stress. From what was on the file he just read, the conditions of Eri's home were bleak and depressing, to say the least. The room she was kept in was small, dark, and barely had any sort of child entertainment. It was almost as if she was just a product for them, to be used and harvested. I know, Toshinori grumbles under his breath while clenching his fist in rage. It's sickening the cruelty he put a little girl like young Eri through for his twisted ambitions. But you are determined to wait. I was, until I got a call this a few hours ago from your detective friend, who informed me about a teenager who managed to capture a man matching Chisaki's descriptions, who, without a license, fought the man and saved a small girl connected with the prime suspect, Nighteye said as he held up the police report. Thanks to that, we got permission from the judges to conduct a raid on the base tonight. Kidnapping and experimenting on a child were enough to issue a warrant for his arrest. We'll begin the raid shortly. But that's not why you're here, is it? He asked as Toshinori nodded. I wish to take part in the raid as well, seeing as I am now involved in the incident with young Eri. I would like to make sure her abuser is put behind bars, All Might explained with a serious expression as Nighteye adjusted his glasses. I understand your motivation and would welcome you to the task force, but I need to discuss something with you first about Ren Amamiya, Nighteye said looking to Toshinori, as the #1 hero flinched slightly. The incident report regarding Amamiya's involvement states that he just happened to be in the area, and so happened to encounter Eri before Chisaki arrived. Chisaki demanded the girl back, but Amamiya refused, which resulted in a confrontation between him and Chisaki, with Amamiya restraining him and saving the girl, Nighteye said as his glasses reflected off the light as he stared at Toshinori. But looking at the evidence, he was about to take down a B-rank villain like Overhaul with an unknown support item that lets him change into outfits that give him superpowers. He set the folder down as he glared. the same support item he used to defeat the sludge villain last year, meaning this boy, Ren Amamiya, acted without consent and effectively broke the law multiple times, he said as Toshinori clenched his jaw. Toshinori sometimes cursed his former sidekick's hindsight, as he felt like Nighteye was getting closer to the truth. But not only that, I suspect he knows about your true identity, and that of One for All, doesn't he? Nighteye asked as his former partner remained silent. I see, and you're going to choose him as your successor. No, because he declined my offer and I already have someone else as my successor, Toshinori admitted as Sir Nighteye remained silent, and breathed out a sigh. All Might, of all the reckless things you could do, this is by far the most reckless thing you have ever done, Nighteye said with a calm but angered tone. You were planning on giving One for All to a child that, as far as I can understand, is supposed to be quirkless, he asked as he showed Ren's personal file, with his quirk status marked as quirkless. Not only that, but you already gave your quirk to someone else. Who is it? There's a long story about that, but I can assure you that both young Amamiya and Midoriya were the perfect candidates for One for All, Toshinori said before Nighteye slammed his hand to the table. And who the hell is this Midoriya? Nighteye asked him with a gaze. He's a quirkless boy I met on the day of the sludge villain incident, the same boy who rushed into danger to save his classmate, Toshinori confessed to his former partner. Are you serious? Nighteye asked with his eye twitching in anger and frustration, as he remembered seeing on the news how a green-haired quirkless teenage boy recklessly rushed toward a villain and almost got killed if it wasn't for Amamiya's last-second intervention. And All Might chose him to be the newest wielder of One for All. Hearing him talk about his dream of being a hero despite not being born without a power of his own reminded me of my younger self when I met my master, Toshinori said, remembering his first encounter with his master. That's not the point. You gave One for All, the quirk that has been passed down for 200 years, to a mere child that recklessly throws himself into danger. Not to mention you were also planning to give it to another child who decides to disregard the law and get into a fights with dangerous criminals. Nighteye shouted in anger while standing up. I watched the video of the incident and to be honest, I wasn't impressed. With Amamiya, all I saw was a little child playing with a dangerous weapon, then encouraging everyone that the act of vigilantism was alright, as long as everything turns out okay in the end. He stated that Ren's actions so far weren't that of a pro-hero but a vigilante. Then there this boy you chose as your successor, charging in at a villain without so much of a plan, and interfering with the work of heroes. We already had someone else in mind more suitable to become One for All's newest vessel. He didn't understand why All Might choose such a foolish boy to have his quirk. If they're planning to be heroes with how irresponsible they've been behaving up till now, then they'll never be anywhere close to becoming like you, All Might. You're wrong about both Amamiya and Midoriya, Sasaki. Yes, they do get into fights, but only for a good cause. If it wasn't for Amamiya, you'd still be searching for evidence on Shai Hasekai for months and never learn of their plan to erase heroes' quirks. But now that you have the evidence you need, you can arrest those Yakuza and put them behind bars. As for Midoriya, he truly has the heart of a hero and a strong desire to help those who can't protect themselves, just like me. And it's thanks to him that we were able to learn something new about One for All, Toshinori said in his two students' defense. Wait, what do you mean when you say that you learned something new about One for All? Nighteye asked as he had forgotten about his anger for a moment. Apparently, One for All is evolving to the point that young Midoriya started to develop the quirks of all past One for All users, and he's even most two previous wielders. Toshinori revealed this to his former sidekick, which made Nighteye look unbelievably shocked to learn about One for All's development. That doesn't change the fact those two abused the law, took matters into their own hands and nearly got themselves killed. They are completely reckless and stupid immature children playing hero. What would have happened if they died with One for All and that unknown support item fell into the wrong hands? Nighteye shouted as he glared, as Toshinori glared back. I'm not sure, but they won't. Both young Amamiya and Midoriya are more capable than you realize, because they are a part of a team of the greatest heroes this world has ever seen. I truly believe that those two boys have the resolve to lead the world into a new age of heroes, Toshinori said with certainty and a very serious tone in his voice, with Nighteye raising an eyebrow at what he meant by team. What do you mean by a team of heroes? Nighteye asked him. Sorry, but I'm not obligated to say any more than I already have. If you want to know more, then ask Nezu, Toshinori said, as he wasn't going to reveal the secrets of the Power Ranger to his former sidekick. And while most of the things they did were reckless and irresponsible, they have good hearts and strong wills, which is why I deem them worthy as my successors and know one day they will surpass me, he stated, and making Nighteye frown a bit at what he heard. You may, but I think they are menaces, Nighteye said before he sighed and hung his head. I won't deny what Amamiya did wasn't valiant. Hell, it even advanced my investigation. But I just feel that he or this Midoriya shouldn't be the one that should carry on your legacy. You are the symbol of peace, All Might. You have protected Japan and kept criminals at bay for the longest time. You've inspired so many heroes to follow in your footsteps, like me, and I've supported you for so long, even to this day. He hung his head with a somber look on his face. And I still remember the day we ended our partnership when you fought him 6 years ago. I begged you to retire and find someone worthy to inherit your quirk because I didn't want to witness the future I saw. But you know I couldn't do that, Toshinori said, remembering that day as well. A grim day that ended his master's killer but limited his time as a hero. The world needed me, in case another villain like him would take his place. And I will always be here to answer the call. I know despite our parting, I know. Even so, I just want to make sure that these two children won't destroy everything you created. I don't want my hero to fade away, Nighteye admitted as silence hung over the room. Toshinori sighed as he hung his head. Sasaki, I know that you look up to me. Heck, young Midoriya is just as much a fan as you are, and young Amamiya has a lot of respect for me. But you have to realize, I'm not going to be around forever. One day my time will come, and I will gladly face it, whether it be fighting a powerful foe, or because of my health. But before then, I will train young Amamiya and Midoriya to face any challenges in the future, because I believe they and the other Rangers will become great heroes one day, one that will eclipse even me. And I hope that you will help them on their journey too, he asked as Nighteye sighed and sat down. Our first conversation in years, and the first thing we do is argue about one for all again, Nighteye asked as he took off his glasses and massaged the bridge of his nose. It's almost like nothing's changed, hasn't it? Yeah, but at least give them a chance, Sasaki, Toshinori asked as Nighteye sighed and put his glasses back on. Okay, if they somehow manage to get to the top 3 spots at this year's sports festival, then I may consider interning them. As for the raid, we would be more than happy to have you on board, Nighteye said as All Might nodded. Thank you, Sasaki, Toshinori said as he turned to leave. Now then, he said, bulking up to his muscle form with a smile. Let's do this, just like old times, my friend, he said as Nighteye stared before a small smile spread on his face. Yes, just like old times, Nighteye said as he and All Might left the office to begin the raid, feeling that the bond he thought was broken remained firm to this day. Yusutafu City afternoon. Present. Honestly, I think it was long overdue, and probably for the best. I've pushed a lot of people away in my life, but maybe it's time I started reconnecting again. But still, Chisaki hasn't made a move on young Yuri yet, and we still don't even know where he and his followers ran off to. For the time being, we're just letting her be a normal child and having the family she has lacked for so long. He will come for her, but won't make a move so long as I'm around. This makes me worried that when my time does run out, he will come for her and young Amamiya for revenge. All Might thought as he just stopped to caught another villain who had escaped with another person's car by punching the hood, but was still lost in his own thoughts. But I have confidence that young Amamiya and the other Rangers will stop Kai Chisaki and protect Yuri's new life. He smiled a little as he saved the day again and then removed his fist from the car's hood. Even if they are Power Rangers, they're still all 15-year-old teenagers. I have to make sure that I guide them all well. There's a hostage situation across town, one of the citizens shouted out. Upon hearing this, All Might groans in annoyance before jumping again to save hostages. I just hope I get to live long enough to see the type of heroes they will become, All Might thought as he wanted to see what the future had in store for the Rangers. UA High School Classroom 1AB afternoon. The heroics classes started soon after lunch, with the students of Class 1A and 1B were told to head to their newest classroom, which was built over the weekend to make it easier for the hero course students in the field of heroism. The 1B students also got the chance to meet the Black Nekashu and Ethurius, with the guys being flustered by Kuroka's teasing and appearance, and the girls feeling jealous by her adult body. As for Sayla, the guys and the girls were intimidated by her cold-hearted demeanor, and knowing she was a former villain didn't help calm their nerves one bit. Monoma was about to make one of his stupid rants about Class 1A until Yui shut him up with a punch to the gut, with Tetsu helping carry the blonde to the classroom so he wouldn't be late for class. When they arrived at the classroom, the students noticed the sign over the door read Class 1AB and that there were doors to the room instead of one door. They entered the room through the doors to find that the classroom was much bigger than the ones they'd been using up till now, and instead of desks, there were rows of chairs and long straight tables that you would find in a college lecture hall, and stairs going down that led to a very wide chalkboard on the wall. Both Aizawa and Vlad King were already standing at the front of the class waiting for the students to take their seats. There were no seating arguments as everyone was free to sit where they felt like it, with the students mostly seated nearest to the people that they were closest to, or a few students who just seat in random spots. Once everyone was seated, the two pros began class to go over today's heroes training. Hello, Class 1A and 1B. Vlad King starts off with a loud shout that gets the students' attention on him. Welcome to another day of hero training. We also have 3 important announcements, so listen up. First off, I'm pretty sure you are all wondering why we relocated both classes to this newest classroom that was added to the school last week. Aizawa said to the students as they were asking that same question too. It's because from here on out, whenever we have hero course class, we will be using this room for both classes together from now on. He looked around to see students nodding their heads. It was decided to remove any unnecessary rivalry between 1A and 1B, that we shall train together and sometimes have homeroom in here. Vlad King looked at all the students and spoke next. The schedules will remain the same and both classes will return to your original rooms for normal class subjects and return here for heroics, he said, with them nodding in understanding. As for the second announcement, it's for the students in my class. Over the weekend we received word from the costume company that's responsible for making your hero costumes, and they just finished making them and are now here ready for you to us, he said, making the Class 1B students grin in excitement that they finally get to use their hero outfits. Finally, they're here, Juzo yelled out in joy. It's about damn time, Kamakiri commented with crossed arms. Truly a blessing from the Lord, Shizaki said with her hands clapped together. Now we can show off how better our costumes are than Class 1A's, Monoma said as he could just picture the looks of disappointment on Class 1A's faces. This is going to be awesome, Pony said in excitement as she was looking forward to trying on her new hero costumes. The last announcement is about your newest addict to the hero course, Sayla, Aizawa said, with everyone shifting their gazes to the demoness, who was sitting next to Ren quietly, along with Kuroka on his other side. As you may already know, is that she was once a former villain, and is now a part of the UARP program where she will be heavily monitored until she can be trusted. So treat her like you would any other student. Most of the students of 1A and 1B were either frightened or angry at Sayla's presence at the school, but knew they couldn't do anything about it, since it was the teacher's call to make, so decided to stay away from her for the time being until they're sure she wasn't a threat. At least she's a part of those Class 1A rejects, as we don't need a villain like her to taint Class 1B heroism, Monoma said with his classic arrogant smile, a glint of superiority in his eyes. Monoma, this is not the time at all, Rin said with a sigh. Though, and why on earth is that? Monoma asked sarcastically. It's perfected that she ended up in the less heroic class, right? He said, pointing at the Euthurius. That's enough, Monoma. What did I tell you about keeping your mouth shut? Kendo said firmly. But it's the truth, Monoma shrugged, keeping his arrogant smile. You think someone like her can change and turn over a new leaf? Once a villain, always a villain. And she's in Class 1A, shows who the better Class 1B is, thaw. Monoma's rant was abruptly ended when he slammed his head hard into the table and knocked him out, making the people around him stumble away from him briefly. All that everyone could hear from Monoma was a measly effort as he lay there with his face on the table, face flat in shock. Well, that was rather awkward. But at least we don't have to deal with his ranting at the moment. Setsuna blinked at the commotion Monoma just did. Ugh, does this happen a lot? Hiroka couldn't help but ask. All the time, 1B answered in unison. He's not manly guy at all, Kirishima said while shaking his head. It's like dealing with a second Bakugo, only less anger, Hiroka thought as she shook her head in disappointment at the boy. Sayla, that was your doing, wasn't it? Vlad King asked as he turned to the female demon, who slightly nodded her head in response. I guess he kind of deserved that, but in the future leave disciplining students to me or the other teachers. He said he felt a bit nervous about the girl's power to control others. While everyone stared awkwardly at Sayla, the 1B heard their homeroom teacher's words and begun to unnoticeably stare at the demon herself with multiple expressions of concern. Anyway, let's get back to business, shall we? Vlad King said to the class, with Aizawa nodding in agreement at how they were wasting class time. Today's training will be a little different, Aizawa announced to the class. You'll have 4 instructors. Me, Vlad King, All Might, and another facility member will be keeping tabs on you, he said, making every one of the students look surprised and whispering to one another. Wonder what we will do today? Shota asked idly. Maybe we get to have a combat-based class. I really want to work on my tape swinging, Jiro suggested. We already had that a few days ago. If we do any more, it's going to get tiring real quick, Ryuko said, making some of the students nod in agreement. I mean, we get to use our quirks, which is fun. but just focusing on combat only seems kinda boring. Kosai complained. There are many sides to heroics after all, so for all we know we might need to do a mock interview after this, Momo idly added, making some of the students sweat in nervousness. 4 pros. Is that because of the break-in? Midoriya wondered in thought as Zero raised his hand in the air for a question. Sirs, Zero called out to get the attention on him while raising his arm up. What kind of training is this? He asked pretty much what everyone was wondering. Aizawa then held up a card that read rescue on it, before answering. Rescue. You'll be dealing with natural disasters, shipwrecks, stuff like that. He explained the training, as some of the class got excited about this. Rescue? Huh. Holo Tommy thought while thinking about the Lightspeed Rangers. Fighting criminals is one thing, but saving people is just as important. Disasters? Huh. Kaminari said a bit demotivated, before turning his head to the right at Mina. Sounds like we are in for a workout. Totally. Mina excitedly agreed with her fist balled up. Real hero stuff, Kirishima said while leaning forward on his desk to both Mina and Kaminari. This is what separates the men from the boys. I'm shaking with excitement. He was looking forward to this next training. Hell yeah man, rescuing those in trouble is what a real man does, Tetsu said in agreement with him and Kirishima giving one another a fist bump. Finally, I get to show how good I am in the water, ribbit. Sui said excitedly while turning to Kirishima and Tetsu. Rescue training. Won't be easy, that's for sure, Manga said with the writing on his bubble head. That's why we're here to learn, Manga, Shishida said to his fellow classmate while pushing up his glasses. Can't wait for this training, Sen said to the person on his right. Yep, don't wanna brag, but this will be a walk in the park for us, Sato said with a confident smirk. It's a good thing I have a bunch of rescue knowledge and skills thanks to the memories of the Lightspeed Rangers. Besides, people's lives are the Earth's future after all, Ren thought with a smirk, as his heart was pumping in anticipation for this rescue training. Everyone in the classroom was pumped up for their next hero course training lesson, except for the very angry blonde hair boy who was glaring at the all extra stupid happy faces with his red eyes before scoffing in annoyance. Rescue training, what a waste of time. Bakugo thought about the training with a scowl planted on his face. Those idiots are getting themselves worked up over saving a bunch of useless extras who don't even have the balls to help themselves. Who cares about any of that dumb crap, when showing your strength is the only way to become the best hero in the world. If there was no fighting involved, then it was a waste of time for him. Guys, we're not done yet, Aizawa said to his students, sounding a little annoyed, with Vlad King also throwing his own look of irritation. At least let us finish first before talking amongst yourselves, Vlad King said dryly to them. The heroes in training then quieted down and paid attention to the 2 pro heroes once more. What you wear in this exercise is up to you. I know you're excited about costumes, Aizawa said as he pressed a button on his remote and the walls slowly shot out the cases that the students' hero outfits were in. But keep in mind that you haven't gotten used to them yet, especially you students in 1B, since this will be the first time wearing your costumes, and they might limit your abilities. This special training is at an off-campus facility, so we'll be taking a bus to get there, Vlad King instructed as the class nodded. That's all, start getting ready, Aizawa said as the whole class got up and went to get their cases. While the rest of the students got up to get their cases, Midoriya remained seated as he was deep in thought. Rescue training, Midoriya thought with a determined expression on his face. I've been waiting for this. He then brought his right hand up before clenching it. It'll bring me one step closer to being the kind of hero he and the other rangers are. I'll do my best, the ranger thought with determination in his eyes before getting up to grab his hero outfit. Aizawa's gaze then fell onto a certain student in the room, and began to speak to them with a stern tone in his voice. Also Bakugo, you're still on suspension, so you can't take part in this training exercise. But you can still come with us to watch, as it will be a good experience to observe, Aizawa told to his most troublesome student. Bakugo only growled lowly while giving his homeroom teacher a small scowl at being called out like that and being reminded of his punishment, but pressed on like normal. If he was going to get stronger, then he needs to start training like crazy after school lets out today, since this stupid rescue training won't do much to help him grow stronger. TCH, Bakugo huffing in annoyance, and looked away from Aizawa before walking out of the room with his hands in his pockets while scowling. It's not like I'm interested in saving a bunch of weak whining extras anyway. Sayla, Aizawa said, getting the attention of the demoness attention, with her turning a glance to the man. We managed to get your costume ready in time too, so be sure to use it when you need to, he told her. Sayla only looked at the man with an emotionless look in her eyes, but replied back with a nod as she got the case and stood by her master's side. So you come with us too, Kiroka? Ren asked his cat girlfriend with his case in hand. Might as well since I got nothing else better to do, Naya, Hiroka said with her shoulders shrugging. Then they all left the classroom to locker rooms to change. UA, high school boys' locker room afternoon. In the boys' locker room, everyone was excitedly getting dressed for their reused training off campus. Man, I'm so looking forward to this next hero training, Sen said putting on his new hero outfit that had finally arrived. You can say that, agree, dude, Sato said with a grin. This is the whole reason we become heroes in the first place. This a chance for me to show off my dazzling recuse skill, Aoyama said twinkling and posing in front of a mirror. But I wonder what type of things they'll make us do. Jiro wondered as he adjusted his gloves. Something that had to do with rescuing people from all types of disaster or villain attacks, Manga said with the writing on his bubble head. I prefer fighting something over this, but I can manage well when it comes to rescuing, Kamakiri said as he likes combat more than this type of training. Either way it ought to be interesting, Hirwaro said with most of the boys nodding in agreement. Hey, Ren and Midoriya, Kosai said getting their attention. Congrats on getting girlfriends. I'm almost kind of jealous, he joked with a grin. Yeah, you're so lucky to score a bunch of girlfriends, especially you Ren with Kuroka, Kaminari said nudging Ren with his elbow. How'd you both get so lucky, huh? He asked. There was nothing really to it. Midoriya shook his head with a blush. We were just being ourselves. Then the girls eventually fell for us and confessed their feelings, he said, not making a big deal out of it. But what, so many girls? Shoji asked in curiosity. How is that possible? With how bad me and Midoriya's lives were for being quirkless, the universe probably must have done us a favor by giving us some good fortune for once in our lives, Ren said, cracking a joke, getting a few laughs from the other boys. Makes me almost wish I was born quirkless too, Juzo commented as he was half dressed in his new costume. It's still a bit strange that you're dating so many girls at the same time, Ren added to the conversation with him almost done getting dressed. It was their idea actually, Ren said to them as he just finished getting dressed in his hero outfit. They didn't want to waste their time fighting to see who we would pick and decided to share us together, he explained. Holy shit, Zero said in awe at how lucky they are in scoring so many girlfriends. Language, Ida interjected, his arm moving in a chopping manner. While crude, the sentiment feels appropriate, Takoyami said with some of the other guys agreeing. Well, it obviously worked out, Kirishima gave him a thumbs up. I wish you two the best. I mean, I never even thought about having more than one partner, Tetsu added. That could be a lot of fun. Indeed, Ida said, chopping his arm for emphasis. To be honest, I find the idea of such a relationship to be a little unsettling. But, if you both are all consenting and happy, I support it wholeheartedly. Hell yeah, Awais said, giving a thumbs up to them. Love however you guys want. The other guys were giving their own response and support to the two rangers in their newfound relationships, except for Todoroki, who just stayed out of the conversation, and Minta, who was still feeling jealous at how Midoriya and Ren took all the girls in both classes. Monoma, who was still angry that two Class 1A members were dating girls from his class, and Bakugo, who was annoyed at how the damn nerd and wannabe were the centers of attention again. It's nice to have friends like you guys around, Ren said with a smile at the male students from both classes. Yeah, thanks guys for your support. Midoriya smiled at all of his male friends before a very loud bang echoed in the room, as everyone turned to the source and saw it was Bakugo slamming his locker door shut. Bakugo felt sick just hearing this garbage from these dipshits. What made it worse was that everyone around him seemed nothing but happy and content, especially fucking Deku and the Wand. Apparently, the two fuckers went and got girlfriends. Roundface had always been sweet on Deku, which made him sick to the core, and now Frogface, invisible bitch, and the B-listers from the other class are sucking the nerd's dick. Hell, even the quirkless wannabe was also getting it on with the stupid bitches from both classes, along with the cat bitch and horn villain. It was annoying to deal with this shit, especially given that quirkless fucker always had a smartass comeback to say to him. He wished their relationships would go up in flames. Stop talking about the damn wannabe and nerd like they're amazing, when they're nothing special about those weak losers. Bakugo growls out with his anger is nearly palpable as he finishes changing into his gym clothes, since his hero costume is badly damaged after his fight with Deku and needs to be repaired. Once Bakugo was done, the boy left the locker room in a huff, with him slamming the door close on his way out behind him, as the tension in the room seemed to lessen significantly. Most of the other guys relaxed a bit now that the walking stick of dynamite had left the locker room and looked towards the door curiously. What's his deal? The majority of the boys thought, thinking why was Bakugo mad about it, until someone said something that got their attention. Will he ever grow up from his childish behavior? Tommy thought while shaking his head in disappointment at how the blonde boy refuses to learn from his mistakes to become a more humble person. Ignore that idiot, Ren said in a blank tone while also wearing a neutral expression on his face at how immature Bakugo was acting right now. If he wants to act like a sulking big baby, then let him. We have more important things to do than dealing with Bakugo's temper tantrums, he said to his fellow classmates, brightening the mood back up a bit. Ren's is absolutely correct. We can't have Bakugo's behavior to damper our passion for learning, Ida said while chopping his arm in the air. Yeah, screw that ass guy. Who needs him bringing down our mood anyway? Bondo said in agreement. I guess I shouldn't expect any less from someone in Class 1A, Monoma said with a smug look. I still do know how someone like that got into the hero course, Shota questioned with a frown. Because our society favors those with powerful quirks, Midoriya said in a venomous tone while scowling a bit. And the sad truth is that Bakugo is very talented and skilled when it comes to pretty much anything he does. Which is pretty disappointing if you asking me, Shishida said with a frown while pushing up his glasses. All that talent yet he's wasting it on petty grudges. Which is why we have to be better than that, Ren said to everyone with a tone of passion. Better than him as both human beings and heroes, he stated with the other guys mentally agreeing with him. Tommy completely agreed with his student there. Most of the hero course he's seen gracefully accepted their defeats, save for one formidable adversary, Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo possessed tremendous potential as a fighter, and was undeniably a worthy opponent. However, his inflated ego overshadowed his capacity for adaptability to becoming a better hero. While everyone was chatting with one another and was almost dressed in their outfits, Minta made an outstanding discovery that put an exciting smile on his face. He found a Shawshank hole on the wall behind a small poster. Psst, hey guys, you won't believe what I just found, Minta whispered as he got everyone's attention on him. Look here, I found some historic treasure, the little pervert said, with all the boys looking over and saw a hole in the wall. It looked like it was hidden by a poster which Minta had moved to reveal it. It's just a hole in the wall, that's nothing to get worked up over, Minta, Midoriya said with a raised eyebrow. Damn it, Midoriya, don't you have any culture? Minta yells, causing Midoriya to look at him. Say what? Midoriya asks. Minta starts to perversely and mischievously grin. A previous generation has given us a gift. You know what's next door, right? Minta asked with steam coming from him in excitement. This looks into the girls' locker room. This hole is the ultimate jackpot. The boys were surprised at what the perv said to them as their eyes changed. Some in wonder, others in fluster, and some in disgust to Minta himself. Don't tell me, Tommy thought, narrowing his eyes at the little bastard, as he was doing another one of his stupid antics. Minta, don't even think about it, Ida ordered, knowing what Minta was planning. Keeping on them like that would be criminal. My little Minta is already a criminal act, Minta shouted with a creepy look on his face. Not cool, man. Not cool at all, Juzo said to the little creep. Dude, that's wrong to go and peek at the girls while they changed, Zero said with a look of disappointment. Yeah man, that's unmanly to do that to our classmates, Kirasmiha says as he has his arms crossed and frowns. Plus, it's not cool to spy on my bro's girlfriends like that, Tetsu added, and as well with anger in his voice. Seriously, dude, I appreciate the female form, but I do my best to be respectful about it. I've been trying to be your friend since it really seems like you don't have any others, but sometimes you make that really hard to keep doing. Especially with what you're doing right now, Kaminari surprisingly said in a mature tone. This isn't an anime where you go and peek on girls and suddenly think that the girls won't get pissed, and that you'll be fine the next moment, Kosai said with anger in his voice. This is real life with real consequences. You'll get into big trouble if you do this, Shishida warned the boy. Indeed, so stop this foolish behavior already at once. It's unbecoming of a hero course student, Ida said in a scolding tone. Are you all stupid or something? Minta cried out with a crazy look in his eyes. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and there's no way in hell I'm missing this chance. He said, nothing backing out of this no matter what the others tell him. The only stupid person here is you, Minta, every one of the boys thought with flat looks. If you go through with this then you'll just get expelled. Rin warned the boy from doing something he might regret later. He's right. You really want to get kicked out of school over such a petty crime? Shota asked him. The only crime I see here is me not using this moment, Minta yells as he tears the poster off the wall. What the hell is wrong with this dude? Manga shouted at him from his writing bubble. Seriously, Minta, would it kill you to stop acting like a complete creep? Sato angrily said to his classmate. Those are our friends and classmate you're talking about, you freaking creep, Jiro said, gritting his teeth in anger. Have you no respect for women? he asked with the quiet ones like Shoji, Sen, Kurwaro, Bondo, Aoyama, and Koda shaking their heads in disapproval of the boy's actions. And some of those girls are our teammates, you damn sicko, Oase said to him angrily. Keep your filthy eyes off the girls from my class, you wanna degenerate, Monoma said with a glare. Despicable hellspawn, Takoyami said, frowning at the boy's actions. Don't even think about it, you fucking horny animal. Kamakiri threatened the perv as he was about to create a blade to stop the midget. Minta ignored this and turned to the hole while breathing heavily in anticipation of seeing some naked female bodies. Minta, would you quit it already? Midoriya spoke up in a rage, thinking of protecting all of his female friends and girlfriends from this pervert. It's wrong what you're doing, he shouted. Shut up. You and Amamiya already have your own harems. At least let me enjoy this. Minta snapped at him with fury in his eyes. Finally, I can see Yaoyorozu's and Kodai's grand boobs, Ashido's and Yanaga's slender waists, Hagakura's and Take's thick asses, Uraraka's and Kendo's super plush bodies, Sui's and Komori's unexpectedly soft breasts, Shizaki's gorgeous legs, Tsunotori's foreign delights, and most of all, Kuroka and Sayla busty adult figures. The degenerated roars with a crazy look in his eyes and a creepy grin on his face as he goes to the hole and tries to look through it while drooling. As the boys from both classes were forced to listen to the perv's sick comments, they were beyond grossed out and furious by how Minta was speaking about their female companies like they were sex objects instead of people, as even Todoroki, who was quiet this whole time, was glaring at the boy in disgust. Midoriya glared at the small pervert as he was getting tempted to knock his lights out. Minta, I'm only going to say this one more time, don't do it. All the girls have had it with you, and so have we for that matter, he said with the other guys nodding in agreement. Then you'll have to throw me in solitary confinement, cause you can't stop him. Minta's rant was cut short when he felt a fist slam onto the top of his head before he could finish that sentence, and he soon placed his hands on the spot where he was hit while involuntarily backing up from the peephole. Aha, what the heck was that for? He looked up to see Ren leaning on the wall, and he had his back pressed on the spot where the hole was. That's enough out of you, Minta, Ren sternly said to the pervert with a harsh judgmental glare. Don't pretend to be all righteous, you bastard. You already stolen half of the girls from both classes and kept them for yourself. Not to mention, you also got Kuroka and Sayla too. So don't go acting all high and mighty in front of me, you damn thief, and let us virgins get to dream of something. Let us without girlfriends get to see those beautiful bazongas on them, Minta crazily accused while pointing at him. Ren just quietly glared at the little pervert as every word that came out of his dirty little mouth was making the ranger angrier by the second, with him and everyone else having enough of Minta's behavior. He then grabs Minta by the back of his collar before he can do anything and pulls him to the middle of the room while he and the other boys are confused, but Ida is thanking him for having morals. Hey girls, I know you heard what Minta just roared out. Can you please plug up the hole on your side for now? I can fix our side in a bit. Ren yells out, just loud enough for the girls to hear. On the other side of the wall in the girls' locker room, the girls from both classes were just as upset and angry after hearing the conversation on the boys' side, thanks to Jiro using her quirk to plug her other jack into it wall, and the other into her phone, allowing the other girls to hear what was happening. The female students heard everything that the boys were saying and heard what Minta was attempting to do. Even Sayla and Kuroka, who were there, heard Minta's ranting, with the Etherius looking like she was ready to murder that grape human on the spot the moment he saw her nude, and the black Nekashu not caring one bit about the little pervert as it was nothing new to her, but that didn't mean she wasn't going to claw his eyes out in annoyance. In response to this, Jiro was about to stick her other earphone jack into the hole to stab Minta in his eye and hopefully blind him. But luckily, her boyfriend stepped in at the last moment and blocked the hole with his back, much to the girl's relief. Looks like Ren saves the day again, Kuroka thought with a smile while leaning her back against the locker and arms crossed as Jiro just informed the other girls what her mate did. Perverts ain't needed in my stories. Sayla scowled darkly in utter disgust at the thought of that human garbage ogling her naked body. Why am I not the only one surprised that Minta would try something like this, ribbit? Tsuyu said with a scowl on her face as she and the other girls were half-dressed. Such a sinful act is unbecoming of a future hero, Shizaki said with a look of revulsion. Geez, what a disgusting creep. Toru spoke in an annoyed tone, as she was now visible and didn't want the creepy to see her nude. How can he do such a horror thing? Kinoko asked with a tick mark on her forehead. He'll never learn, will he? Mina asked as her eyes angrily twitched from the little freak's comments about them. If there's a more vile person out there in the world than that little creep, then I don't want to meet them. Momo said with her eyes closed as she had a look of disgust and anger across her face. He truly is the most disgusting human being alive. I still don't know how someone like him got into the hero course, with the way he behaves, Ryuko said with a frown as she was doing her best to hold back her rage. Yui groaned out an angry agreement, as the man she would be allowed to see her naked was her boyfriend. Why am I the only one he didn't say anything about? Jiro thought with a dark expression of anger and disappointment on her face at how the little bastard never meant her name once. Sure, she didn't have any attractive and developed figures like the rest of her female classmates, but it still kind of hurt to not be compared to the other girls about their feminism. Some boys are just the worst, Kendo groaned in annoyance. Satsuna touched her chin with her fingers and thought of something. To be fair, someone from this side could have made the hole, she pointed out as some of her classmates looked in her general direction. Hey, it's not like there aren't girl perverts out there that wouldn't love to take a peek at a good-looking guy. I can think of two, in particular, all of us would like to see shirtless, she said with a toothy grin. All of the girls present except for Sayla and Kuroka blushed at the idea of seeing their shirtless boyfriends. Back on the boys' side, once the two were in the middle of the room, Ren let go of Minda as the smaller boy fell on the floor face first before looking up at him with a look of frustration as the other guys circled around the two to witness what was happening next. What the hell, Amamiya? Why'd you do that? Minda asks, glaring at the spiky-haired boy to stop him from peeking at the girls. Ren just crosses his arms and stares at Minda with a firm glaze. I'm stopping you from committing a crime, and before we start beating the hell out of you. Those girls as you think aren't just objects for your lusts. They are our classmates, our friends, my teammates, and also a few of them are mine and Midoriya's girlfriends. Ren shouted at the pervert with a furious tone. Do you think I'd let you peek on them without doing a single thing about it? I don't think so. As long as I'm class representative and as long as I'm here, I'm not going to let you force your own sick decisions on any of the girls in our classes or around this school. I hope you get that through your thick skull, he says and proceeds to leave the room, with Minda gritting his teeth in frustration that the ranger had ruined his moment and turns to him. Damn it, how can you be like this, huh? No normal man would give a chance like this up. Are you even a man? Minda yells at him. That was when Ren stopped walking and was standing still with his bangs shadowing his eyes. Although he was quiet, everyone could see that he was very annoyed and mad as several of the boys in the locker room sucked in a breath at Minda's words. Oh shit. Juzo breathed out in shock. That idiot should have kept his mouth shut, Shoji said, shaking his head in annoyance. Shota nodded his head. Oh boy, he said softly. Well, that was dumb, Shiro said, crossing his arms. Call an ambulance. Minda's going to die, Kosai said, going pale immediately. Never mind an ambulance. You shall be needing an undertaker, Takoyami said darkly with dark shadow coming out and nodded enthusiastically. Herb just signed his own death warrant. Dark Shadow commented. I hope Ren doesn't go too far. Oh, who am I kidding? Minda had this coming, Rin said, not looking forward to the bloodbath that was about to unfold. Should I stop him? Ida said, sweating nervously. Why stop it? It's just getting to the good part. Monoma said, wishing he had some popcorn for this next part. You can try, Midoriya said nonchalantly, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder to keep him from interfering. But it's best if you stay out of this one. The ranger was then overcome with so much rage that he was emitting a vengeful aura pouring off of him in waves for everyone to feel. All the boys, except for Midoriya, Oase, and Takoyami scooted back slightly in fear of being near him. Ren slowly turned his head to Minda and gave him a soul-piercing glare, one that Minda made start to regret what he said as the grape-head boy took a few steps back in terror at the beast he just provoked. Did you ask me if I'm a man? Did you seriously ask me if I'm a man? Ren asks, surprisingly calmly despite the anger he is feeling right now. That's really rich coming from someone like you. A pathetic excuse of a human being, he says, staring right at Minda, fury in his eyes as his irises and pupils seemingly glowed brighter. Minda just stood there whimpering in fear, as he was unable to do or say anything with Ren glaring at him like that. Tell me, Minda, what do you think makes a boy into a man? Ren asked him. Well, a man is someone who's finished piety, Minda said. Ren closed his eyes while shaking his head in disappointment until he stopped and stared back at Minda. You're half right. While that is the scientific way to classify a boy from a man, you're still wrong, Ren said as his glare became more colder. A man isn't someone who keeps on invading women and girls' privacy, before, after, hell, even while they're changing. A man isn't someone who can't control their lust and tricks or gropes people to temporarily satisfy said lust. A real man doesn't trash talk or badmouth other people. They treat people with respect. A real man is someone who honors his family and friends, and a real man is one who doesn't lead on women. A real man is one who works hard but never chases a paycheck or something stupid like fame, fortune, or even fangirls in this case. A real man is someone who can have control of himself and values purity, but never chases after second-hand thrills or has an affair. A real man is one who celebrates the successes of others and is never jealous of them. A real man is one who is just as honest when no one is around as he is when the world is watching. A real man is someone who takes responsibility for his actions and doesn't blame anyone for them. A real man is someone who finds strength in his beliefs and in himself. A real man has manners, is polite, and is considerate to others. A real man is one who allows himself to feel, emote, love, cry, and have his weak moments. A real man is a human, and like all humans, he can be both strong as well as vulnerable. Not only one of these two. A real man is someone who treats a woman as an equal and a partner rather than as an object. He shouted while listing off what a real man is to the little degenerate, with each sentence hammering into him. Minta then falls to the ground and starts to shake as Ren starts walking up to him and looking at him dead at his face. You know, I noticed something in what you said earlier. You said all the girls' names except one, Jiro. Why is that? Ren asked, making Minta shake as he tried to find the right words to say to save himself. Well, I just don't find her attractive. She's got nobody compared to the others, Minta said as the boys frowned or glared at him while at the girl's side. Jiro had tears in her eyes as they heard what he said while the girls tried to comfort her. Hearing this made Ren's eyes pupils dilate in rage as he quickly grabbed him by his costume collar and slammed him hard with his back against the locker, making some of the boys in the room flinch in surprise from the unexpected move and Minta gasping in fear. What the F did you say about my girl, you little shit? Ren yelled out in pure rage, with his glare deepened as he was getting more annoyed than he could ever by Minta's comments. How dare you body shame her like that? I should kick your ass right here and now for that stupid comment you made about her, you fucking pervert. He shouted, gripping his costume collar tightly. Minta was scared out of his mind with him shrieking like a little girl and pissing his pant at how he was digging a deeper grave for himself. Of course, you'd say something like that. Not attractive, huh? Because she's not physically developed as the rest of the girls are. That's where you're wrong. You don't know a single thing about her, Ren shouted, causing the boys to turn to him while the girls peeked at this with Jiro looking at her phone with interest and hope. She's one of the most incredible girls I've ever met and just as attractive as all the others in this school. Hell, she's beautiful in her own unique way. Jiro's a very talented musician who can play any type of instrument you can even think of, and her singing voice is so beautiful I can listen to it for hours and not get tired of it. Her dream is to be both a hero and a musician so that everyone can hear her voice. It's a wonderful dream that I fully support, you heartless turd. His statement made both the boys and girls awestruck at what they heard while Jiro's expression brightened up at how her boyfriend was defending her like that. Do you know what I like in a girl? It's not the way she dresses, the way she talks, the way she presents herself to the world, or how developed she is. I don't care about any of that crap. Not in the slightest. What I like and look for in a girl is her personality, Ren said with a calm but forced tone as everyone listened with great interest. I look at a girl's eyes and see her personality. I look at her life and get to know her and see how and what made her into the woman she is today. I look at their personality and learn about their true selves. If you really think of Jiro like that, then you really fucking disgust me, he said, shocking everyone, including the girls as he let go of Minta, dropping him on the floor. Once he was done giving that little pervert a piece of his mind, Ren walked over to the tiny hole in the wall before placing his hand and then used his earth manipulation ninjutsu to completely patch up the peephole in the wall. That should do it, Ren said before removing his hand from the wall. I covered the hole in the wall, so you girls don't have to worry about this creep or anyone else peeping on you again. He said loud even for the girls to hear them shout back in thanks as they were grateful for what he's done for them. All the guys nodded in approval for the Ranger's action except for Minta, who was still on the floor watching this with horror. My chance. Why? Minta cried in his head, for this cruel punishment the Ranger gave him. Forced him to watch as they fixed that hole. It was so evil. Let me say this once and I hope this gets through your perverse mind, Minta, Ren said as he turned his head to face the boy again while giving him a serious gaze. If you try something like this again or make some stupid comment about any of the girls, then I'll report this directly to Principal Nezu, and he's the last person you want to upset, he said, making Minta's face go pale with fear at the thought of the principal getting involved. Wait, please, you can't do that, Minta begged fearfully at the UA's headmaster to learn about this. I can and I will. Ren yelled back, which made Minta back up towards the wall like prey about to be massacred by a predator. We're all getting sick and tired of your bullcrap, Minta, especially the girls. We're all here to be the next generation of heroes to defend our world from dangerous threats, unlike you who's only here to become some kind of sexual predator who only thinks more with his dick than his brain," he said, making Minta freeze up from the comment, and made his way to the locker room door right before stopping to say one last thing to the pervert. "You got a lot of growing up to do, Minta, if you want to be a hero or a man. Because what you are right now, Minta, is not a man nor a boy, you're just a goddamn animal on his way to becoming a villain." That was the last thing the ranger said as he left the room and headed to the parking lot. As he left, every one of the boys was either stunned or amazed at what had happened. Most of them had wide eyes while some had their mouth opened as they couldn't comprehend what they heard. One of them spoke. Dude that was Sen was struggling to find the right words to describe what just happened. "Manly," Hiroshima and Tetsu both said in awe, with Sen just nodding back. "No, well yeah, but badass too," Sato said, feeling the same. "Yeah, I know what you mean," Jiro said as he was speechless. "Remain me to never piss off Ren," Bondo whispers to Shishida, who looks at him. "Only if you do the same for me," Shishida said as the two shook hands and agreed to the term. "He was so cool," Koda said with a low-toned smile at how the ranger acted just now, as expected of our class representative, putting his foot down to stomp out the troublemakers of our classmates. Ida said with a prideful smile at how his friend was able to deal with the class pervert. "If he hadn't done something to stop Minta, then I would have," Midoriya said happily at how Ren got Minta to stop. Kaminari went over to his friend and waved his hand at his face, looking for a reaction. "Dude, you okay?" he asked, but got nothing as Minta was stiff like he was a statue. "I think Ren scared the hell out of him," Takoyami said with a look of satisfaction. "He got what was coming to him," Awase said in an impressed tone. "You think he learned his lesson?" Purawaro asked the Chinese student. "Highly doubtful," Rin replied back with a head shake. "Guys like him only learn things the hard way. So how long do we have until he returns back to usual nonsense?" Juzo asked the boy. "I'll give him a few hours at best," Rin said with a shrug. "Well, at least we know that Amamiya will be here to keep the great pervert on a short leash whenever he steps out of line," Kamakiri states with a smirk. Meanwhile, at the girls' side, they were stunned at hearing Ren's words while also being happy as well. Happy he defended their honor and purity, so much that they couldn't help but find themselves blushing, especially his girlfriend. "I didn't think he could possibly get even cooler," Setsuna said, utterly blushing madly. "Yeah, our man is awesome," Mina said with dark purple dusted on her cheeks. "That was really kind of him. He acted like a real gentleman," Momo said, feeling her cheeks heat up. Yui commented with a nod of agreement while also wearing a deep blush. "That's my master for you," Sayla said with a smirk of satisfaction as her master dealt with the little human. "And that's what I like about him. I hope he doesn't change that about him," Hiroka thought with a smile as she left the locker room. Wow, Rin, Pachako, Pony, and Kinoko said with a happy smile at what they just heard. "It's nice to have someone like Ren as a friend to always keep Minto at bay," Kendo commented with a grin at her leader's actions. "And he plugged the hole up from his side and all the way to our side," Tsuyu said as the others looked and saw that she was right. "He's a real blessing from the Lord," Shizaki said, giving a little prayer to God about her classmate. "Let's also be glad that the other guys were against peeping at us." Ryuko commented about the other males. "Yes, it's good to know that not all of them are like that little creep." Toru agreed with a nod. Jiro was quietly saving tears of happiness at how much Ren meant to her, and will never forget what he said today as long as she lived. "Thank you, Ren. I'm real lucky to have such a rocking guy like you in my life," she thought, wiping away her tears. Back with Ren, he was walking down the hallway towards the school's parking lot where they would take a bus to the USJ, with an annoyed and irate expression on his face, still thinking about all the stupid, narrow-minded comments that great bastard was coming of his disgusting mouth. Eventually, he stops when he noticed someone was standing right behind him. "What is Kuroka?" Ren said with irritation as he didn't even bother to turn and face the black Nekashu, whose face was devoid of any of her playful banter. "Are you okay?" Kuroka asked him in a soft but worried tone. "I heard everything that happened in the locker room." Her golden orbs held some sadness in them. Ren then takes deep breaths to calm down and clear his mind, before turning to face the Yaokai woman with a tiny smile. "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm still a little heated," thought Ren said with a more calmer tone. Hiroka smiled beautifully as she approaches him and briefly pressed her lips to his cheek. "Feel better now, Naya?" she asked, holding onto his chest. "Yeah, it helped a bit. Thanks for that, Kuroka," Ren said to her with a warm smile. "Sorry you had to see me explode like that. It's just what little freak said really pissed him off." His eyes were stuffing down on the floor and left fist clenched in fury. I'm seriously getting tired of Minta's antics and how he treated women like they're nothing more than sexually objects. It's only been a week of school and that little bastard won't quit with his lewd behavior and sexually harassing the female students in both classes. Now the Rangers had enough of Minta's crap and decided to finally put his feet down on the matter. A part of him hoped that Minta took his advice and quit acting like a horny monkey and get his shit together, or else he can kiss being a hero goodbye. It's fine, Ren. You did something good back there by putting that pervert in his place, Hiroka said to him with a pleasant smile while rubbing the boy's cheek with her hand. I mean, defending your classmates from getting violated and fixing that hole from future perverts. You really are nice guy, Naya. Kind of hypocritical since you're a pervert yourself, Ren said with a raised eyebrow. Naya, Hiroka cried out in a little shock before glaring at him with a cute expression. I have you know that what I do is completely different than what that little midget was doing. Besides, I would only do those type of things with the man I love, and that's you. She gave a cute pouting before looking away from Ren with her arms crossed, pressing her breasts together which were for him. Okay, I'm sorry for comparing you to him and other perverts. Ren apologized with her still giving him the silence treatment. Hiroka, come on, don't be angry with me. HMPH. Hiroka huffed as she was still ignoring him. Ah, Hiroka, Ren said, rolling his eyes at her childish behavior before saying something. Look, if you want I'll make it up to you with anything you want, he said, making the black Nekishu cat ears twitching in excitement as Hiroka turned to give a sinful smile on her face and the twinkle in her glittering eyes. Hey, anything you say, Hiroka hummed with a mischievous smirk, swaying her hips back and forth. Then how about you put a baby in me right here and now, she said with her golden eyes shining brightly. Anything but that since I'm not up to being a dad yet, Ren drawled in amusement, making Hiroka groan in disappointment. Sorry, not sorry, since we talked about this. You tease. Fine, then how about after we go on a date, Naya? Hiroka suggested to him as she wanted to get him to agree to have sex with her before her heat period started, or else she would have to wait until the next one. Ren thought about it for a few seconds before he gave her his answer. Sure, why not, but when I have the free time to do it, Ren responded, as school and his ranger duties keeps him busy. I'll be sure to hold you to that, Naya, Hiroka said to him with a playful wink. Master, Sayla shouted as she ran up to the two in the hallway, as she was now dressed in her usual kimono the Etherius normally wears. Ren and Hiroka turned to Sayla, stopping in front of them, with her having a concerned look on her face as she looked at her master. Are you okay after that incident with the little incest? Do you want me to punish him for his actions? She asked with serious look in her eyes. It's fine, Sayla. I don't want you to do anything too extreme on Minta, even though he may deserve it, Ren said, stopping the girl from doing something crazy on the little pervert. I already put him on notice, so if he does try something like that again, I promise you he will pay for it. He somehow managed to calm her down. As you wish, master, Sayla said, lightly bowed her head, making the boy sigh. You really don't have to call me master all the time, you know, Ren said as he shook his head. However, the three in the hallway saw someone quite unexpected appearing from behind the corner. Huh, Miss Midnight. Good evening, ma'am. Sure enough, the R-rated hero and their modern art teacher noticed the trio before giving a smile and approaching them with curiosity. Oh, hello there, Amamiya, Midnight said, stopping in front of the group as she noticed the two women next to him. And you're both Sayla and Hiroka, right? She asked the demon girl and Yaokai woman behind her student, with Sayla simply nodding in response and Hiroka flashing one of her usual cat-like smirk. She noticed that the two of them were very attractive women with incredible busts and figures that would make any girl envious, as well as their choice in clothing, with them both wearing very revealing kimonos which showed off amazing bodies that would turn heads. The R-rated hero couldn't help both approve of this, as it remembered Nimiri of her first hero outfit when she started her career as a pro. I thought so. My name is Midnight, and Principal Nezu informed the entire staff about both of your situations here. Just as long as you don't harm any of the students on campus, then you're more than welcome here, since Amamiya putted in a good word for you, Midnight said with a welcoming smile while placing a hand on her right hip. What Midnight said was true, with Nezu telling every staff member of school about Sayla past and being in the UA redemption program, as well as Hiroka being a visitor on the campus with Ren watching her. Alright, Sayla nodded her head simply to Midnight, not bothering herself with the trouble of showing her, a human, her gratitude. The only humans who deserved her gratitude was her master, his family, and the other rangers, and she would rather order her body to throw itself over a bridge before she could bring herself to thank a human. but I could care less what you humans think, as I'm only doing this to stay by my master," she stated bluntly, while Midnight's eyes widened a little bit. "We appreciated the warm welcome, Midnight," Hiroka said to her in a grateful tone, before grabbing Ren by his arm and pulling him in closer to herself. "Especially since I can spend two with my mate, Naya." She rubbed herself against him, making the heroine's eyes widening even more at what she was hearing. "Stop that, Hiroka, not in front of other people," Ren said, removing himself from the Nekishu graphs. He then looked back at Midnight and saw the modern arts teacher giving him a sly look. "What?" he asked, not liking the look on his teacher's face. "Master and mate, huh?" Midnight questioned, with her seductive side showing, seeing Ren flinch a bit much to her enjoyment. My, Amamiya, I didn't know you were into that sort of thing, such a naughty boy," she said, loving this new juicy information about the young boy. "Miss Midnight, whatever it is that you're thinking, it's not what it seems," Ren immediately said, trying to shut down whatever his art teacher was thinking of before she got the wrong idea. "Trust me, it's a bit complicated." "Whatever you say, Amamiya," Midnight giggled as Ren only groaned in annoyance and defeat. There was no beating Midnight's dirty mind. "Don't worry, I promise not to kink shame you, young man. Also, there's no need for a miss, just feel free to call me Midnight, or even Nimiri if you want. After all, something tells me I'm sure we'll be much closer from now on," the R-rated heroine said with a smile, purring seductively towards the black spiky-haired boy. At hearing this, Sayla glared at Midnight harshly, quickly disliking the teacher's perverted attitude, as it reminded her too much of the black cat's behavior. "Master, she is quite annoying. Shall I eliminate her?" she asked in a dark tone, as she had enough of perverts for one day. "No," Ren answered immediately, shooting down the demoness. "Very well, Master," Sayla said, standing down from doing anything else. Sayla was just so casual about it, which made it all the worse sounding. Although Midnight didn't seem to react to it and instead just giggled even more, with Hiroka joining in the laughter. "I think I found my new favorite teacher in this place," Hiroka said with a smirk, as she was starting to like this woman. "You're already in my book, Midnight, Naya. Please call me Nimiri," Midnight said to her with a smile. "You seem like a fun person. Hang out with Hiroka. Maybe a girls' night out with a few of my other hero friends," she suggested to her, seeing the woman cat parts move around a bit in excitement. "I would love to do that, Nimiri," Hiroka said with a mischievous smirk. "Maybe you can even help me getting into bed with a certain big and strong ranger," she said, making Ren flinch at the thought of the two teaming up on him. "Oh, now the thought of that turns me on," Midnight said with a sadistic grin while licking her lip. "I like it." She gave the black Nekishu a thumbs up, before the two started laughing together like they've been friends for years. "Great, now they're friends," Ren muttered before letting out an exhausting sigh at how it was going to be a handful dealing with two people with the same playful but teasing personality. "Why me?" he said, with Midnight and Hiroka finished their laugh. "Well, I better be heading to work now. You three behave yourselves," Midnight with a playful wink, before moving closer to Ren and leading into, "And be sure to let me in on the fun next time," she whispered in his ear before moving back from the boy to give him a playful wink, right after turning her heels in the other direction in the hallway to take her leave, while swaying her hips in a way which showed off her sexy butt that Ren paid attention to. "Naya, haha." Hiroka giggled a bit at her new friend's seductive antics. "I really like her. We're going to have so much fun together," she said with an evil smirk across her face, thinking of new way that her and Midnight can get to Ren sleeping with them. Sayla just shook her head with her eyes closed in disappointment at the Nekishu behavior, as she will never be about to understand the book that was Hiroka no matter how many times she read it. "Biscuits," Ren said under his breath at the future he was nothing forward to facing. "Guess I just deal with as best I can when it comes," he said, hearing the locker room doors open behind him. They looked to see students coming out of the locker rooms as they just finished getting dressed into their hero outfits, with Shoji carrying a still stunned Minta in his arms. "Now that they're done, we should head to the parking lot," Ren said to Hiroka and Sayla with his hands in his pockets. "Finally, I've been waiting for this," Hiroka said before grabbing her man's right arm. "Yes, Master Ren," Sayla said, nodding as they walked with the other students in a group from both classes to the school's parking lot. UA High School parking lot afternoon. After getting changing in their hero outfits and the locker room incident, Class 1A and 1B had gathered outside in the school's parking lot, where a bus was parked and ready to take them to their destination. As the students all clamored with one another, each of them teeming with excitement over the sort of exciting exercises they would be undertaking, especially the student from Class 1B since they finally got their hero costumes and couldn't wait to show them off. Yosuke Uwais was wearing a burgundy, baggy, full-body suit, its collar passing his chin. He wears shoulder pads and a bag on his belt in which he keeps various items, including blocks of wood and metal to aid his quirk. He also switches out his usual zigzagged headband for a striped one. Senkaibara was wearing a dark-colored windbreaker with gray, drill-pattern rings around the base of the neck and arms. Over this, he wears a large white trench coat and gloves. Kagaru Kamakiri was wearing a large dark green cloak, plain black trousers, and three-toed boots. He has a mask around his eyes and a zigzag pattern on his shirt. Shihei Kiwaro was wearing a simple black jumpsuit with light shoes and a large wristband on his left arm with 3 rectangular indentations. Itsuka Kendo was wearing a turquoise knee-length kippao, over which she has a black double-breasted corset, ending just below her breasts. She also sports black short pants under the kippao. For accessories, she wears a loose brown utility belt around her hips with a satchel attached at the back, a thin black domino mask around her eyes, and white-heeled navy blue boots with wide vamps that reach down to her toes, filled in with white slips. Yui Kodai was wearing a simple red bodysuit with a white collar trim, a matching V pattern running over her chest and around her upper arms, which also includes a short white skirt with a red design at the front, dipping so it follows the one in her chest. She wears plain vambraces, as well as a hat which resembles the front of a baseball cap, colored red with white U-shaped lines around the sides, with a metal piece resembling a fin attached at the back of the strap around her head. She has a belt at her waist and straps around her shoulders, what appears to be a yellow oval-shaped gemstone set between them on her chest, each adorned with a small pouch containing the various nuts, bolts, and all of the other small metal pieces she likes to use with her quirk. Kinoko Komori was wearing a turtleneck dress with long sleeves and furred cuffs, which is decorated with a red and white fly agaric pattern, matching the one on her mushroom cap-shaped hat. She wears pale pink knee-high boots with thick tan soles and frilled shafts, patterned with the same fly agaric as her dress, and around her waist is a dark brown belt with a large golden buckle. Altogether, her costume bears a strong resemblance to a mushroom, referring to the quirk she possesses. Ibara Shizaki was wearing a plain white robe and black knee-high boots. Jiro Shishida was wearing a regular pair of pants, a shirt collar with no shirt, and a pair of stylized goggles in place of his normal glasses. Nairanjiki Shota was wearing a black, high-collared suit with a trim of white pale lines around its collar and hem, and a similar pattern over his torso and shoulders, along with plain black pants and white knee-high boots. A blue scouter-looking device is worn over his left eye, and he has a connected radar on the back of one of his gloved hands. Pony Tsunotori was wearing a horse-themed, matching her appearance and quirk. She wears a horse halter around her head with a lead rope dangling from the back, and her outfit resembles a jockey uniform, consisting of an orange skin-tight shirt with paler markings around her chest and stomach, with matching colored pants, along with a pair of fingerless gloves. She wears belts secured around her collarbone, biceps, and lower torso, and boots that not only guard her hooves but also have stirrups attached on either side. Kosai Tsubiraba was wearing a simple light blue jacket, with pale pants, a black shirt underneath, and he wears large brown boots with cylindrical shapes on the soles. Tetsu was wearing a dark green jumpsuit, cut off just below his chest, with some small, silver-rimmed holes in the lower section of his baggy pants and black boots with metal soles, heels, and front plating. He has steel straps over his shoulders and under his arms, made up of multiple pieces, which connect at a red oval in the center of his chest, with 2 thinner bands around his biceps and a small plate on either side of his waist. He wears a metal jaw guard around his face, similar to the one Jiro wears, just thicker and not connected over his nose or around his chin, with the letters Phi, which stands for iron, in the periodic table, stamped on a plate on each side of his face. Setsuna Takage was wearing a purple, scaly mask over her eyes, a simple bodysuit with a matching design, and black knee-high boots. She wears finger gloves with orange, 3-piece wrist guards, and a belt around her waist with what looks to be a jewel embedded into the center. Manga Fukudashi was wearing a blue shirt with red sleeves and pants covered by a series of ink bottle-like pieces of armor around his torso and legs, black on his torso, and white on his legs. He wears a belt with manga panels, elbow-under-length gloves, and his mask resembles a manga page template. Juzo Honuki was wearing a dark bodysuit with a set of armor over the top and a mask that covers the face. However, rather than being knight-like, his helmet is more round and elliptical, tinted black with orange lines supporting the sides. The helmet does not cover his entire head. Some tufts of hair around the back of his head and chin are still visible. Juzo's helmet is also equipped with a retractable snorkel which he uses for swimming under softened surfaces. His chest plate is made up of 3 pieces which are held on by 2 thick metal straps going over his shoulders, along with a jewel-shaped plate supported between them. He He wears orange vambraces and plates placed over his thighs, calves, and upper arms. He also sports a pair of elevated, green and orange boots with pipe-like shafts on his feet, white gloves on his hands, and white knee pads. Kajiro Bondo was wearing a yellow, slightly baggy suit. Around his neck, wrists, and waist, he wears orange circular accessories which resemble the lower part of the cap of a bottle of glue, and around his ankles slightly thinner, taller versions of these. Monoma was wearing a black, double-breasted tuxedo with 2 long tails reaching almost down to his ankles. 3 clocks hang on one of 2 belts around his waist, presumably to help him keep track of his quirk's time limit. And he leaves his shirt collar upturned, a blue and black dotted tie done up around his neck. A left breast pocket can be found on his tuxedo, a small blue handkerchief sticking out. Both his tailcoat and his pants are plain black, with the exception of the cuffs of his sleeves and the inner-facing sides of his tails, and his shoes are white with a simple design. Ryuko Yanagi was wearing a pale purple, knee-length kimono with a white, furred collar, 3 dark straps around her waist, black knee-high socks, and a black mask that covers her face from the bridge of her nose down, somewhat like the one always worn by Mizo Shoji. Huryu Rin was wearing a white knee-high boots, a black bodysuit with yellow clouds across the torso, and gets progressively baggier as it travels downward. He has a red belt tied around his waist with pouches on the side, a large collar across his chin, and he also wears large yellow gauntlets and a visor on his head. His outfit appears similar to a jiangshi. His visor appears similar to the talismans commonly seen pasted on their forehead. "It's great to see you in the other Class 1B new hero outfits," Oase Ren said as he was next to his male teammates, Sayla and Kuroka. "Hell yeah, man. This new outfit feels good," Oase commented on his new hero costume. "Not as good as when I morphed in my ranger outfit, but a close second. That's UA. For you. They really go all out," Takoyami said to him with his arms crossed. "But what's with all that stuff you're carrying?" Kuroka asked while moving behind him to see him wearing 2 bags on his belt. "Seem a bit overkill if you ask me. It's so I can use my quirk. You see, my power lets me fuse objects onto anything on an atomic level, and using these steel logs or other items on my opponents with my quirk will restrain and slow them," Oase explained to them with confidence. "That makes sense given the nature of your quirk, but if you want, Oase, I can come up with new ideas on how to use your power more effectively," Midoriya suggested to his friend. "That sounds awesome to me, dude," Oase said before wrapping his arm around Midoriya's neck, giving him a playful headlock. "Sure is nice having an amazing quirk analyst like you as a friend," he stated with the green-haired boy trying to break free from the headlock. "Thanks for believing in analyzation skills so much," Midoriya said before freeing himself from his teammate's grasp. "Hey, Renren." The group turned to see Mina running up to her man before hugging him around his neck. "You're so snuggly," the pink-skinned girl said, rubbing her face against his. "Geez, Mina, warn a guy ahead of time, will you?" Ren said before slightly pushing her off him gently. Mina only giggled in response before speaking to him. "I can't help after you gave that little pervert a pic of your mind back in the locker room," she said with a smirk, as her gaze fell on the said pervert for a moment to see Minta sitting on a bench. Minta looked like he just recovered from the incident in the locker room but had his head hanging down in depression, as he couldn't get Ren's words out of his mind. "So you heard what he said, huh?" Takoyami asked before noticing a group approaching them. "Who didn't with how loud you guys were yelling?" Setsuna said with a grin as the other girls from both classes in hero outfits came towards them, with the dark moss green walking up next to her boyfriend and holding onto her left shoulder. "And I believe he deserves a reward, don't you think, Mina?" she said with a sly grin while looking at Mina, as Mina understood what her friend meant. "Yes, I believe does," Mina said, giving her own grin as she stood on Ren's other side. Then before the quirkless knew it, Setsuna and Mina both simultaneously planted a kiss on Ren's cheeks, making him slightly blush before separating from him. "Geez, do have to do that in front of everyone," Kendo said as she chops both girls on their heads. "Oh, you know that hurts, right?" Setsuna said while rubbing her head. "Besides, you don't see anyone else bothered by it," Mina said while winning her head in pain. "Doesn't mean we're okay with it," Momo said with a stern tone. "I'm fine with it, Naya," Kuroka said, raising her hand with an enthusiastic tone, as if she didn't mean one bit. "You don't count," most of the girls yelled at the yakai woman. Jiro walked up to Ren before saying something to him. "Hey Ren, thanks for what you said about me early. It really meant a lot to hear you stand up for me like that," she said, giving him a smile. "Sure thing, Jiro," Ren said to her with a smile. "Besides, I wasn't going to let that jerk badmouth my girl like that." "Yeah, what he said," Pony said before holding the punk rock girl's hand and giving a bright smile. While you may not have a developed figure like most girls our age, you're still pretty in your own way. Pony's right, you know. I don't think it's right to compare with others. You've got your own set of charms, Midoriya said with a little blush. Heck yeah, girl. You're hot too. You just need to work it a bit, Toru added in with Jiro blushing from their words. Thanks guys, Jiro said, thanking her friends with a tiny smile. Speaking of appearances, Setsuna said with her gaze drifting onto two certain rangers. Ren and Midoriya, what do you think of our new looks? She asked, wanting their boyfriend's opinion. Midoriya gulped a bit and blushed at the sight of girls and his girlfriends in their hero costumes. Some of them, like Jiro, Kinoko, and Pony, looked pretty conservative, but others like Toru, Setsuna, and Mina were clearly enjoying wearing something a bit more revealing. Ren, on the other hand, was able to keep up his poker face even though he did like how the girls' outfits were designed and brought their very own personalities. Why you all look amazing in those HH hero outfits, Midoriya said while trying not to panic and go into stutter mode. I think you all look like real heroines already. He looked back down and tried to calm down his embarrassment, wanting to get a bit more information about the girls' costumes. You're going to be in the silver spotlight now, with your incredible looks and bright personalities, Ren said with a nod to females of both classes. Some of the girls were red in the face but were happy to hear that their boyfriends liked their costumes, with Kuroka giggling teasingly and Sayla looking unamused by this, while Takoyami and Awace chuckled awkwardly at their two friends were dealing with their lady friends. Best boyfriends ever, Toru and Mina both shouted happily before jumping at their respective man for a big hug. You both differently know the right things to say to a girl. Big boy, Setsuna said, winking teasingly at her man. Thanks, babe. I wanted my costume to look cute, Yui explained in her usual deadpan voice, but a small blush on her cheeks from her boyfriend's words. You're so cute when you compliment us like that, Kendo said with a giggle as she liked that side of her boyfriend. They're definitely the two purest souls on the earth, Shizaki happily said with a light holy casting down on her. That's why we love them so much, Ribbit, Tsuyu said with a tiny blush on her face, caused by her boyfriend's actions. They're both real keepers for sure, Ryuko said with a tiny smile behind her mask. Yeah, they really are one of a kind. Momo agreed with a nod, as she was lucky to be with a wonder man like Ren. You're so sweet sometimes, Midoriya, Pony said, blushing while pocking her fingers together in a shy manner. I'm glad to have met him when I did, Jiro said to herself while playing with one of her jacks, as her heart was pounding like crazy. Kinoko didn't say anything but was blushing up a storm on her face with her bangs covering most of her face, at the compliment from her boyfriend. Never change, Deku and Ren, Uraraka said with her eyes closed and a bright smile. Right, Midoriya said, smiling as he felt like the lucky guy in the world to have so many great girlfriends to make him feel this way. Ren replied with a thumbs up and a grin to the gravity girl, as he wasn't planning on doing that ever. By the way, Toru, I love your new hero costumes, Mina exclaimed, giving her a thumbs up as the other girls around them also agreed with the pink-skinned girl's statement. Where'd you get a new one so fast? Toru Hagakura's newest hero costume is a skin-tight black and light green bodysuit for combat, with stripes and matching black boots with light green soles. It's thanks to my awesome boyfriend, with the help from Mr. Power Loader, Toru said, giggling with joy, before explaining how she got her new costume. After Midoriya helped me regain my visibility, we paid a visit to support course over the weekend to help me create a new hero outfit so I don't have to walk around naked. We learned that I can only turn my body invisible but not my clothes, so Mr. Power Loader helped me get in contact with a costume company, and they agreed that if I send them a bit of my DNA, like a few strands of my hair, the invisible quirk user said, playing with a strand of her hair, they can design a costume for me that'll be lined with those fibers and turn invisible with me when I use my quirk. Did Deku help come up with your costume design? Uraraka asked, tilting her head. Isn't he the greatest? Toru said with a cheerful expression before giving him a quick kiss on the cheek, making the green-haired blush from the physical affection. Really now? Setsuna said to her with interest. I guess that does make sense since I had to do the same to have my hero costume specially made in order to use my power with it, or else I have to strip naked whenever I want to use my quirk, she said as she removed her arm from her body with her costume peeling off as well. It would have been a pain to use her power without her specially made outfit. So, does your costume have to be skin tight for your quirk? Hiroka asked her with a smirk while looking at her outfit. No, it can be a thick material if I send them more of my hair, Setsuna said while reattaching her arm back to her body. I just want it to be skin tight. Oh, and why is that? Ribbit, Tsuyu asked with her head tilting a bit. Because I am sexy, Setsuna smirked before striking a sexy pose. And I want to show it. Yeah, that you are, Setsuna. Very sexy, Ryuko said sarcastically with her eyes rolling. Yui agreed with her ghost friend. So sinful, Setsuna, Shizaki commented while her face quickly colored red as she looked away. Setsuna, no one here thinks that about you, Kendo said deadpan. Oh, you're all just jealous that I look good and you don't, Setsuna said to them, with most of the girls rolling their eyes at her. Hiroka gave an evil smirk a bit as she liked this girl, and Sailor remaining quiet as she didn't care much for this conversation. So what do you think of our hero costume, you class 1 scum? Monoma cried out loud, which got the whole class's attention on him. The students in 1B's hero costume differently outshine yours by a mile. I guess that this means everyone's going to see us as the real heroes, and your class is second best. He then arrogantly laughs, much to everyone's annoyance. Not this again, everyone thought while giving the blonde laughing boy a deadpan expression. That kid got issues, Naya, Hiroka said with a frown, as she wondered if all the blonde boys in this universe was a bunch of self-righteous pricks. Master, can I please silence this little annoyance? Sayla asked with a dark look that was ready to kill. No, Sayla, something but no, Ren said with his face twisted into an irritated scowl, as he was possibly concerned about that option right now. This punk is starting to piss me off. Even so, better keep Sayla in check before she does something stupid. He thought, keeping his eyes locked on Monoma. Jesus, doesn't he ever learn? Tetsu asked as he was thumped to knock him out. Apparently not, Manga said with his speech bubble morphed into an annoyed expression. Can someone please shut this moron up? Kamakiri asked with a sigh of annoyance. Monoma, I swear if say one more word about Class 1A, Kendo said in irritation as she was this close to knocking him out. Come on Kendo, don't deny it. You know I'm right about this one, a trash, Monoma said with a smug look, right before pointing at Ren and Midoriya. Especially those two scum of the earth. How dare you seduce our female classmates? He sent them a glare. Aw shit, are we really doing bullcrap this again? Juzo commented in annoyance with a few of the guys agreeing with him, as they didn't want to do the blame game again. Monoma, just quiet it okay, Kiruwaro said to him. We are not doing this. Yeah, didn't the girls go over this in homeroom? Just let it go already, Shota said to his classmate. And why should we? Monoma argued back, as it looked like he wasn't going to drop this without getting back at the students of Class 1A. The girls are traitors for siding with the enemy, especially that he suddenly stopped when he felt a cold aura standing right behind him, as was now sweating bullets. Monoma then turned his head around to see Ren suddenly right behind him without warning and glaring at him the same way he did to Minta back in the locker room. Yeah, Monoma flung himself backward to get some distance away from him and the quirkless ranger. Everyone there stood wide-eyed, their gazes fixed on the boy who just appeared behind the copy quirk user without seeing him move, except for Kuroka, Sayla, and Midoriya, whose eyes were fast enough to pick up on his speed. And nada again, Minta thought as he unconsciously backed up in fear with the locker room incident still fresh in his mind. You should pick your fight wisely, Ren said to him in a very harsh tone, while glaring at him sharply. There are villains harming innocent people out there left and right as we speak, and you're targeting the ones on your side. Pathetic, he stated to a stunned Monoma. The initial shock of Ren's quick moving behind the boy without warning wore off quickly as everyone listened intently to the words of the quirkless ranger, whose words were like poison for Monoma. Listen up, punk, I'm only going to make myself clear this one time. I don't give a damn about your dick measuring competition to see who the better class is, because those 1A scum over there are my comrades and friends, along with everyone else in 1B. They're strong and some have the potential to be stronger than you, Ren said with great seriousness in his tone, as he looked Monoma dead in his eyes. The fact that you boast about strength and constantly antagonize my class makes you and your whole class look weak in comparison, he said, as everyone knew he wasn't insulting the students of Class 1B, but saying it was Monoma who was making them look bad with his behavior. So instead of picking fights with others who will be your allies in the future, we should unite together as one. We are the UA, students of the hero course, not the 1A and 1B. Now either grow the hell up and accept others or shut your fucking mouth before I make you shut up, because you, Minta, and Bakugo are starting to get on my damn nerves with your bullshit, he said before pointing directly at Monoma, making him flinch back in fear. I personally don't care if you're a student of this school. The minute you slip up I will end you, along with anyone else who I see as a liability to the group. Got it? He threatened as he narrowed his eyes. Monoma just stood there frozen in silence, as he was unable to say anything with him being too scared to do anything. Ren didn't even bother to wait to hear a response from the boy, as he walked away from him and back to his friends with a crowd sharing mixed reactions, classic shock and awe. All the girls in class gave appreciative smiles. He wasn't chivalrous by any means. Hell, he told the same thing to others a few times. But he wasn't going to let the insults to the people he cared about go unpunished. That, and he just hated bullies with a burning passion. Midoriya, Takoyami, and Oase were giving off smiles of appreciation and admiration for their leader's noble actions. Most of the boys were smirking at Ren when he shut Monoma's ranting up, and the speech he made about how both classes need to stand together in order to handle any threats in the future. Ida, despite his classmates' choice of words, could help but respect him even more now with how he is able to discipline the other students who get on of line. Minta soiled his pants for the second time today, as he was now beyond terrified of a pissed-off Ren and hoped he didn't get on the Rangers' bad set again. Sayla's face held a neutral expression, but her eyes took a shine, sending her master a message of respect. Hiroka's golden eyes lit up and stared at her mate, displaying his dominance in front of everyone, which made her lust for him increase. And lastly came Bakugo, who gritted his teeth in frustration as the wand compared him with that copycat extra from the other class, but stayed silent. So manly, Kirishima and Tetsu said quietly, with them giving what amounted to a manly flex of their arms combined with a thumbs up for approval. Kendo finally let out her thoughts. He's right, Monoma. I don't understand what is your problem and why you are egging on our sister class over some petty sense of pride, she said, getting the boys' attention on her now. We are lucky that Ren managed to build a bridge for both of our classes this earlier. We are going to end up working with them on the job. Besides Bakugo, they are not arrogant nor full of themselves. That is you, over this class rivalry that we never wanted. A rivalry that you somehow created on your own, like seriously. We have people depending on us now and you think making enemies with other heroes is a good idea, she said to him with utter annoyance. She got a point there. We're all here to be heroes, not enemies, Shota said with a frown. Yeah, Monoma, who cares about you trying to one-up the other class? Bondo said in agreement that this whole class rivalry thing is pretty dumb. Like what Ren said earlier, we will be allies in the future, so I don't see the reason why you insisted on making them our foes, Shishida said with his arms crossed. But it's for the benefit of Class 1B, Monoma weakly said in his defense. Is it for 1B or just you, Monoma? Yui asked him with narrow eyes. Monoma remained quiet as he didn't know how to answer the question. That's what I thought, Yui said with a slightly dark expression on her face as she walked over to Monoma without warning and grabbed him by the dick and gave it a hard twist. Monoma lets out a loud high-pitched screech like a little girl, with everyone watching in horror and widening eyes at how the quiet girl was twisting the blonde balls and making him scream out in pain. Yep, differently not breaking up that tree, most of the boys thought while holding crouches from the phantom pain. We warned you what would happen if you didn't drop this nonsense, Yui said darkly, as she had a tight grip on his balls. Now let this serve as a lesson when you try to insult our boyfriends again or antagonize the other class, because next time our punishment will be much worse than this. She threatened him before letting go of his family's jewels and making Monoma wail in pain while collapsing down to the ground and holding his crouch with tears rolling from his face. Damn. Most of the guys cried out with their faces cringing at the pain Monoma must be feeling right now, but no, he deserved it for being a narcissistic asshole. Several of the girls started laughing at Monoma's misfortune and hoped he learned something from this painful experience. I think I just got turned on a bit. Ren thought about how Yui handled Monoma. Hiroka was laughing up a fit at Monoma's punishment and remembered she'd done that a few on a bunch of guys who got too handy with her. Sayla was a bit impressed by this and made a mental note to try something like that on someone with her macro curse. Nice one, Yui. Ryuko complimented her, who was walking up to her. Yui said with a look of satisfaction as she stood next to her friend. I was going to chop him on the back of the head, Kendo shrugged as she watched Monoma roll around on the ground, crutching his crotch and crying like a little baby. But that works too. Dividend punishment has been served, Shiozaki commented with a smile, with some of the class laughing at what she said. Girls are really scary somethings, Juzo commented with a worried tone. Essentially the ones who go for the groin, Kaminari said with a weak frown. As long as we are not idiots like Monoma and Minta, then it's safe to say we can avoid our female classmates' wrath, Shoji said with the guys nodding in agreement. Then everyone heard the sound of someone blowing a whistle, which drew everyone's attention to see it was Ida with a whistle in his mouth. Class 1A and 1B, form up, Ida ordered them. To facilitate the access to the bus, we'll make 2 lines in accordance with your number, he explained, going on with his typical seriousness, before blowing his whistle repeatedly. Needless to say that some of his classmates looked at him oddly. Ida's kicking it into high gears as usual, huh? Midoriya said, sweat dropping as his friend kept blowing his whistle. Yo, Ida, remember that Ren and Kendo are our class's reps, So it's their call, not yours, Kaminari reminded him. Right, and sorry, class reps. Ida apologized while bowing to the two class reps. It's fine, really, Kendo said to the boy awkwardly, before looking at her team leader. So you want to take charge like usual? She asked. Right, okay people. Enter the bus one by one and sit wherever you like. Ren ordered, surprising Ida. Class rep, there's no regularity in that method. If you use my method then we will have regularity. Ida argues with his hand up. My team, my call. Now get on the bus, Ren said to Ida with a deadpan look. The class rep thought Ida tried to argue again, but Ren cut him with a sharp glare. Ida, I swear to Almighty God, if you don't like my leadership then you can get the fuck out of here. Ren yelled at him while pointing at the exit gate and shocking Ida. You have three choices. Either lead me, follow me, or get the fuck out of my way. And since I'm in command you follow me. Now get your ass on the bus or I will make you run to the destination without your quirk in just 5 minutes. He threatened a shocked Ida, terrifying the other students yet again and somehow impressing Vlad King and Aizawa who were watching this from the distance. Oh okay, Ida said dejectedly, then boarded the bus without question. Did you have to go that far, Ren? Uraraka asks fearfully. My job as team leader is to lead and give orders. His job as my subordinate is to follow my lead and comply with my orders. Nothing more, nothing less. Ren replied seriously, as there were times he would be laid back with his leadership. But this was one of the times he couldn't let others walk all over him. There are times that he must take up the role of leader. If he wanted to be a great ranger, then Ren had to have a crew that you can trust without any hesitation. Now get on the bus, Ren ordered the other students, and they entered the bus hastily, with Kendo grabbing Monoma and drags him on the bus when Kuroka and Sayla walked right up next to him. You alright? You seemed stressed out, Kuroka asked in Ren. I'm fine. Just a bit tired after dealing with 3 idiots today is all, Ren said, sighing a bit. Let's just go, he said to them as he walked towards the bus. Right, Kuroka said while entering her cat form and jumping onto Ren's right shoulder. Yes, master, Sayla said, following right after him. UA, high school PE, grounds afternoon. Meanwhile, at the same time, somewhere on the campus, Ren's clone and Eri were still on their grand tour around the school campus after finishing having some lunch, which was for only Eri, since Ren's clone didn't need to eat for obvious reasons. As the two made their way through the forest, the path under his feet nothing but dirt trail road while holding hands. Ren figured it would be a good idea for Eri to experience some nature since there was still so much about the world she hadn't seen yet. For as long as Eri could remember, her childhood was filled with 4 walls, a roof, and a ceiling. Her parents were blurring images from a dream, and even her grandfather, who took her and had a fading face. And everyone else around her recently had just been plague masks and long coats. Overhaul didn't allow her to touch the sun, even from her window. Her room was buried underground, dark and cold. There was nothing there for her but pain and isolation. She didn't know that she would be escaping that day, but when the opportunity was there, Eri jumped at the chance, willing to risk her life for the unknown, because it couldn't have been worse than what she knew in that room, in that place. She didn't know that her feet would feel different when she walked on a ground of dirt compared to a ground of concrete. She didn't know the feeling of the changing winds, and she didn't know the comfort of the sun's warmth. Not until she met Ren today. Seen then, life has been wonderful for her as she gets to do all sorts of new things foreign to her. The pale blue-gray girl was able to meet all sorts of nice people, unlike the ones in the shy Hasekai. When Eri saw a squirrel eating an acorn, she stopped to stare up at the fuzzy creature on the branch. Her eyes were wide as she followed the sway of its fluffy tail. The rustling of the leaves underfoot had caught the squirrel's attention, and it froze mid-chew, its bright eyes flicking up to meet the girl's gaze. For a moment, the two just stared at each other, the girl in wonder and the squirrel in cautious curiosity. As the squirrel resumed its feast, the girl let go of the clone's hand and slowly took a step forward, then another. But as she drew closer, the squirrel skittered away, darting up the tree trunk with lightning speed. Eri gasped in fright and stepped back, bumping into Ren's legs as she was caught before she could fall. Ren held back a chuckle, gently standing Eri straight. That's a squirrel, Eri, he said. Squirrel, Eri repeated like she was memorizing the name for the first time. They live in places with a lot of trees, and typically a lot of food they like, Ren said to Eri, staring at him in wonder and awe at the information. They like acorns and peanuts. You can get them to come close to you if you offer to feed them, but they're careful around anything bigger than them. That's why they run into the trees. It's scared of me, Eri asked, tilting her head in wonder. It's in their nature to be careful, that's how it survives. But they don't always just run and hide when they see us coming, so you'll get to see more of them in the forest, Ren said to her. Despite her disappointment, the little girl couldn't help but stare at the branch, thinking about the squirrel, and its bushy tail. Walking through the forest on the school's grounds is an experience that engages all the senses. The crisp air has a hint of pine and an earthy aroma that invigorates your lungs. The rustling of the leaves as the wind blows through the trees creates a peaceful symphony that surrounds you. The towering trees enclose the forest. It was an encompassing experience for Eri. The forest is teeming with life, and as the two ventured deeper into the woods, Ren made it a point to spot all of the wildlife so that Eri could enjoy it all. The birds' cheerful chirps and the insects' buzzing add to the forest's harmony. No wild boar or deer, but even so, Eri seemed to marvel at the sight she was offered, with him smiling at the sight of the childlike innocence of the once terminated child. Maybe we should go to the zoo. A thought just came to the clone's mind as he watched Eri's movements. This was a case of the long road to recovery, and the boy knew she couldn't shirk this because he was the one who saved Eri. And to abandon her now would go against everything he stood for as a ranger. Eri needed to feel secure now. Even though she was away from that place, Ren knew that trauma could run so deep that even escaping the source wouldn't save you. After walking for a while, they made their way back to the school's main building. So did you enjoy your time trailing around the campus? Ren asked her with a smile. Yes, it was so much fun, Eri replied with a bright smile. Can we go to other places like this with Sayla, Kuroka, and the others? She asked her brother. Of course, it sounds pretty fun, Ren said, patting her on the head. Eri cheered with her hands up. The clone chuckled at this before pausing for a brief moment, as a new set of memories and information was sent to his mind. Looks like it's time then, Ren's clone said as Eri was a bit confused about what he meant by that, before bending down to her level. Eri, listen to me closely, okay? He said to her, with the girl nodding to him as her attention was focused on him. The real me is handing off campus to do some hero training in a special place, and won't be back for a few hours. And I'm going to disappear soon, so before that happens I'm going to drop you off at Recovery Girl's office. You think you can be a big girl for me and wait for the real Ren to return? He asked the girl in a gentle tone. Eri looked a little upset about this but understood how important it was for her brother to do this, so nodded back to the clone in agreement. Okay, Ren, I'll try, Eri muttered softly while putting on a brave face. That's my little sis, Ren said, rubbing her head a bit, making her giggle happily, before standing back up and placing the girl on his shoulders for a piggyback ride. Ready? Yes, Eri said with a smile, as she enjoyed doing this with her brother. Ren's clone then began to walk towards the school building at a slow pace, with Eri's cheeks flushed a little, and her eyes shone in wonder. Hey, Ren, can I ask you something? Eri said to him in a shy tone. What is Eri? Ren asked in curiosity as to what his sister wanted. Can you teach me to fight like you and the other rangers? Eri asked him, with the clone stopping in his tracks from the unexpected question. You wanna what? Ren replied back with wide eyes. I want to learn how to fight like you guys, so that one day I don't always have to depend on you to protect me when you're not around for me, Eri said with a look of determination before morphing into a sadder expression. I just don't want to feel helpless again, like when I was with him, she muttered while gripping her brother's head tightly, as the trauma of her time with the shy Hasekai was still there. Ren was shocked to hear her words, as he didn't expect how much Eri wanted to grow stronger. He then couldn't help but smile proudly at how much his sister has grown from her time with him and didn't have the guts to refuse such a request from her. If that's what you want, then such Eri. I'll teach you how to fight, Ren said, making the white-haired gasp in excitement at the thought of learning from her brother, with her eyes sparkling with delight. Really, Ren? Eri shouts out in happiness. Yeah, Eri. I'll teach you everything know about martial arts, along with the others too, Ren said to her with a smile, before resuming his walk towards the school nurse's office. But it won't be easy. You sure you can handle it? I can, Eri said repeatedly in a hyperactive manner. Thank you, Ren. You are the best brother ever. Ren chuckled at her remark, as he was looking forward to training his little sister to become someone strong enough to stand on her own someday. The real me is going to be surprised to see this memory, the clone thought with a smile. Yusutafu Street's afternoon. Once they got on the bus, the class realized that the bus wasn't like any normal bus. It had an open layout that practically threw out Ada's seating system, so the students just sat where they wanted or to the people they were closest to, all except for Monoma and Minta, who were very quiet the whole trip because of what happened to them earlier, and Bakugo, who was sitting alone in the way back of the bus, as no one wanted to sit next to him, which seemed to suit him just fine as he stared out a window into the city with his usual ire. Isolation from his peers seems to be punishment enough, but that's only if he cares about the people around him, which he doesn't. Ida was sitting next to Mina as he looked to the floor in shame. The bus's open layout ruined my boarding strategy, Ida said, sulking at him as felt like an idiot now for not noticing it sooner. Ida, you really need to chill, Mina said to him with a smile, as did everyone nearby him. but they weren't smiling to make fun of him. "You are carrying a lot of tension, man. Learn to relax once in a while," Ren advised the speeder as he sat next to him. "If we're pointing out the obvious, that there's something I wanna say about him actually," Tsuyu said as she turned her head to where Ren was sitting, with Sailor right next to him who was read a book and Kuroka resting in his lap. "Hey Ren," she called him, which got his attention. "I always say what no matter my mind, so I hope you don't mind me asking you." "Yeah, what is it, Tsuyu?" Ren asked the frog girl. "What's up with this whole Power Rangers stuff?" Tsuyu asked him with a barely noticeable smile. "You told us about them before, but you never gave us the full story," she said, with everyone else's conversations on the bus stopping, as their attention was now on the frog girl's question. Even Todoroki and Bakugo, who were ignoring their classmates' conversations, had their ears open to learning the secrets behind the quirkless boy's abilities. "You know, I've been wondering about that," Kiwaro asked, having been sitting close by. "We hear you guys call yourselves that all the time, but what does it mean exactly?" "Yeah, so are they like pro heroes with their agencies and stuff, right?" Kaminari asked in curiosity. "It sounded no different than what we see everyday," Kirishima added too. "You're wrong," Ren said, getting the attention onto him. "Then not what a Power Ranger is. Then what are they?" Kinoko asked, with everyone who didn't know wanted to know more about the Rangers. "Well, it's no surprise that some of you don't know," Ren chuckled a bit before speaking again, but this time in a more serious manner. "I want to make this very clear to everyone here is that Power Rangers are completely different from pro heroes. They fight with no hero licenses or the law telling them what to do, nor do they care about money, fame, glory, or recognition. We're protectors of the right, and defenders sworn to fight because it was the right thing to do," he said, a fond smile as he remembered the past Ranger teams before him and his friends. "It's a title that given to those who are will to go beyond the call of duty to protect everything that is good and true. If I were to put it in short terms, Power Rangers is the title of a type of hero that will do whatever it takes to protect the earth and all life on it. But to us who know about them, it's a lot more." He paused for a second to let his words sink into everyone's minds, with them paying close attention to the quirkless boy before speaking up again. "It doesn't matter what they faced, be it evil organizations to straight up demons or gods. And if there was evil that would threaten the whole world, the Rangers would rise up and face it without fear or hesitation. No matter how hard the battles they face, Power Rangers will never give up and make the impossible possible, as they did so many times in the past, all to protect the smiles of the people who can't protect themselves and the wonderful planet they live on. That's the kind of legacy we're trying to live up to every time we call ourselves Power Rangers," he said, a fond yet solemn expression on his face. Everybody who'd heard his speech about the Power Rangers stared at him with wide eyes, and the ones who knew were smiling at Ren for giving them a great explanation about the colorful heroes. Hell, even Bakugo and Monoma had shut up and just listened to him speak, the blonde looking rather pensive for once. At the froth of the bus, Aizawa and Vlad King could help but be stunned in utter silence by the speech Ren just made about the Ranger, even though they knew their legacy. "I see, to think you shouldered such a great legacy of heroes," Ryuko said in awe. "It's no wonder you guys want to live up to the names they've taken on. Making the impossible possible, huh?" Pony repeated thoughtfully out loud. "Sounds kinda extreme, almost self-destructive even." Jiro just sighed to take before speaking again. "It is sometimes, I'll admit. Not every Ranger came out of their battles unscathed. Some even perished while fighting till the bitter end," she said, remembering some Rangers' deaths and sacrifices. "But it's before of those heroic sacrifices that many people live to see another day. We're Power Rangers after all," Midoriya said proudly with a nod. "Our duty is the protection of the entire planet, and we never give up or go down without a fight." He listed off the Rangers' principles. "We're saying this right here, right now. Power Rangers do their jobs only because of their duties, not their desires. If you're with us, we'll stand beside you. If you're against us, you better get out of the way," Ren declared as he glanced around the bus. "Because me and my team will do our jobs, and we will do it right." A heavy silence descended at that, with the students looking dumbfounded at the Rangers' proclamation, saying that the Power Rangers will only do it for duty and not for what they want, that they will fight for what's right and not for their own benefits. People seeing a regular man saying this would see him as a fool, but Ren, he's a hero in form and posture. Now one might not think it strange considering the weight of what Ren and other Rangers had said, but then one shouldn't forget that this is UA High School they were talking about. The fact that the Rangers' little explanation had managed to make the bus quiet was an achievement in and of itself. But we won't let them be like that, Uraraka said after a moment, catching everyone's attention. I mean, we're here for them, right? We won't let them end up like those rangers. Everyone present gave a firm nod to her words. They were heroes, and heroes always looked out for their fellow man. Bakugo, on the other hand, was quietly listening in on the conversation, while making it seem like he wasn't interested as the blonde boy's scowl grew in annoyance about this Power Rangers bullshit the wannabe was talking about. He curled his hands into fists at the ridiculous garbage he was forced to listen to. Power Rangers and true heroes. Bakugo spat under his breath quietly without anyone hearing him, as he looked out onto the city in the moving vehicle. What a load of crap, he stated with a growl. Despite all of his failures, Bakugo was sharper and more observant than most. While the other extras were also enamored with the wannabe's sweet smile that slid on like butter, how he told small jokes to lighten up the mood, or those inspiring speeches for everyone to do better. All they saw was a classmate doing his best to help others and improve himself as a hero. But Bakugo knew better than that, because until like those other extras in the hero course, he could immediately tell when someone was bullshitting him with lies. He could never forget that deadly aura the quirkless boy gave off during the second day of class in their first combat training, or the sharp gaze in his eyes. Nobody else noticed that his smile was too sickly sweet or his calm demeanor like he didn't have a care in the world. Behind that fake mask he puts on for everyone to see were eyes as sharp as a knife, and he had felt the loser's dagger glare whenever he sees him. It only lasted for half a second before vanishing like a ghost, but it was there behind that mask he wears. Or how the wannabe kept his calm expression on his face when he thought nobody else was looking. Steely cold eyes so full of fire it was as if he was ready to do or die at a moment's notice. Despite that bastard being a quirkless loser, Bakugo felt there was unimaginable power within him. And it made him sick to his stomach to think a powerless loser like Ren could give off such a sense of superiority around himself like that. Nobody projects that kind of lethal instinct without having gone through some heavy shit in life. That guy wasn't like Deku in middle school, weak and worthless, easily intimidated loser, a stupid little pebble in the road. No, he was a real threat, a challenger. Maybe a real challenger is just what he needs in order to reclaim his rightful place back on the top. Bakugo was certain Amamiya was a wolf in sheep's clothing, and that he was hiding something from everyone with this Power Rangers stuff. He didn't know what it was, but he was certain that the teachers, Deku, Ponytail, Big Hands, Horn Skank, Cat Bitch, and all the other extras who were close friends with that quirkless loser were involved in the secret too. And he sure as hell was going to get to the bottom of this no matter the cost, even if it means beating the answers out of those damn extras. But as much as Bakugo didn't want to admit it, the blonde-haired teen knew he wasn't strong enough yet to face the wannabe or those other rangers in a fight after seeing their display of strength in combat training last week. He replayed the whole fight that day in his mind more times than he'd admit. More specifically, the wannabe and Deku's fights. And even more specifically, the quirkless wannabe. At first, he was angry. He had been underestimated so much. He didn't think much of the quirkless wannabe after his battle against the sludge villain, and that it was nothing more than a fluke that a quirkless nobody could beat a person with a quirk. But the wannabe showed more of his skill on the first and the second day of school during the quirk test, beating a pro hero, and combat training, which only shows that Ren was holding back, both in abilities and speed and power. Then there were those two bitches that damn wannabe brought to school, and after they slightly show off what they could do with their powers, if that Horn Skank and Cat Bitch wanted to, they would crush everyone in both classes like they were grapes. That thought alone caused him to go to train immediately. He needed to get stronger. No one was better than him. This was just a fluke, he had thought, because he hadn't been training hard enough. He knew he wouldn't reach that level so soon, and show everyone that he was the only one destined to be the next #1 hero, and the strongest in the world. Geez man, you Power Rangers sound pretty opus. I reckon you're going to make a big when you become pros with how flashy you all are. I kinda wish my quirk was an augmenting type so I can lot of flashy stuff with it, Kirishima said as he held up his arm as it hardened. My hardening is super strong. It could destroy bad guys in a fight, but it doesn't look all that impressive. Ooh, no way. I think it's awesome looking. You're definitely pro material with a quirk like that, Midoriya said, disagreeing with him. There a past ranger had heard of who had an ability similar to your quirk, Kirishima. Well, really? That's awesome, Kirishima said in excitement after later that. But I still think it'd be easier if you had a flashy quirk, he said while turning off his quirk. Totally in agreement with you there bro, Kosai said as his quirk was only good for his creating solid air. Not necessarily, Ren said, cutting in, bringing all eyes to him. Flashiness and popularity aren't everything. Take Endeavor for example. His flames are by definition flashy, but people are terrified of him given his attitude. If it wasn't for his track record in solving crimes, something that keeps him in the number 2 spot as many consider his attitude to be a downer, he'd be completely unpopular. On the other edge of the spectrum is Edge Shot. He, who? Sen inquired, blinking. He's the ninja hero, currently ranked number 4, Jiro said to him. Ren nodded in the affirmative, before continuing what he was saying. Correct? The man is incredibly obscure and secretive, and yet his fanbase is almost as large as that of All Might. Why? Because his mysterious nature, alongside his track record, makes up for a quirk that the media has deemed as bland, he said before using another hero for an explanation. Then there's Endeavor, who has a flashy quirk and has solved more cases than All Might while also putting more criminals and villains in jail when compared to All Might. Yet the number 1 hero is still All Might. I looked into how the hero list is made and found out that the reason All Might is ranked higher than Endeavor is because All Might inspires people to do better while also making them feel safe when they hear his voice. Endeavor just doesn't work with the crowd that's around some of the scenes he's working at very well. If Endeavor could figure out how to be nicer to the people, then he'd be the top-ranked hero by now, the Ranger said, making Kirishima and the others seeing his point before continuing. Whether or not hardening is flashy doesn't matter. Granted, yes, it's possible to bring out the best in a simple quirk, but it's personality that makes a hero. Imagine All Might, still with superhuman strength, but with Endeavor's rage and distaste for everything. Would you still like him as much as you do now? He asked. A few people just blinked at him, whilst Kirishima appeared suddenly deep in thought. Personality, huh, that makes sense, Kirishima said quietly out loud. He's not wrong, Todoroki said, speaking for the first time today, as Ren described his father to a capital T. I wouldn't worry about that too much, Kirishima, Ren told him before continuing. Flashy quirks aren't all that good as some pro heroes make them look. Quirks like yours are more useful for offense, defense, and rescue. Sometimes flashy quirks can lead to collateral damage, but a quirk like yours is good for protecting others. Besides, you're likable enough to be popular, he said with a smile that cheers up his classmate. Kirishima blushed at the compliment. Thanks, man. Speaking of flashy, my naval lasers got the perfect combination of panache and strength, Aoyama said with his hands on his cheeks. But it's way lame if it gives you a stomachache, sweetie, Nina said while placing a hand on Aoyama's shoulder and making him feel depressed. Who cares if your power is flashy or not? All that matters is getting the job done, Kamakiri said with a slightly aggressive tone. I agree with Kamakiri. Flashy shouldn't determine our worth as a hero, but our actions instead, Ryuko said with most of the people nodding in agreement. Well, if any of our classmates have pro quirks, it's Midoriya, Todoroki, and Bakugo, plus Ren with ranger forms, Kirishima said comparing them. Bakugo looked over when the red-haired mentioned his name but turned away after with a groan. Sure, but Bakugo's always angry, so he'll never be that popular, Tsuyu bluntly said as Bakugo gained a tick on his forehead. Yeah, plus he's kind of great asshole with a small dick, Setsuna added in, which only made Bakugo even angry. What did you say about me, frog bitch and lizard face? Bakugo shouted while standing up. I'll kick both of your asses, he threatened the two girls, who weren't fazed by the boy's outburst. You see, Tsuyu said, pointing at him, not surprised as she stuck out her tongue. So predictable, Setsuna said with a teasing grin. You know, we basically just met you, so it's kinda telling that we all know your personality is basically flaming crap mixed with garbage. And if Midoriya's beatdown on you didn't teach you a lesson on respecting others, I'd say he'll do it again, Kaminari said with a grim look which only fueled Bakugo with even more anger. You're just an overgrown anger Pomeranian who gets set off over the little of things, Awase said to him with a grin. So yeah, you suck, dude. You're both gonna regret the day you applied to this school, you losers. I'll kill you, Bakugo yelled at Kaminari and Awase. You'll never change, will you, Bakugo? Midoriya thought as he could hear Bakugo shouting at everyone who was insulting him. Although he found it kind of strange that Bakugo was getting picked, as he knew what it was like to be picked on, and wouldn't want that on anyone. This is such a disgusting conversation, Momo said with a hand over her mouth while looking repulsed by her classmates' vulgar language. So sinful, Shiozaki said in disapproval too. Yeah, but it's fun listening to them fight, Uraraka said laughing as she found it funny. It's never a dull moment being around you guys, Kendo commented while shaking her head with a grin. You know, Bakugo, they do got a point, Ren said, getting his attention. For starters, you're acting like a child by making a scene like this in public over someone making an insult about you or when you're out in the field as a hero, he said, pointing out to the boy. Oh yeah, what makes you think that this, you quirkless loser? Bakugo shouts back at Ren. Do you want to know why that badly then, Bakugo? Ren simply asked. And why's that? Bakugo responded in irritation. Because I know how important it is to keep a level head in or out of battle. And it's that ability that allowed me to observe my surroundings to see things that most people would miss. Ren began causing Bakugo to calm down some. So, the ranger decided to continue before Bakugo had a chance to cut in. That's a very useful skill to have, especially if you're so determined to be the #1 hero. Like I said before, do you really think the public would want a hero who just charges in like a mad dog and acts like a child when he doesn't get what he wants? You would get people killed, Bakugo. Real villains don't just stand there and wait for you to run around like a chicken with its head cut off trying to fight them. They kill people, he said with a deadly serious tone and eyes as sharp as a hawk's. You act the same way as Endeavor while I and the other rangers just want to help people. To be honest, I don't really care if most people know my hero name while I'm working or if my actions go unnoticed as long as I'm able to keep people safe from villains. After all, I'm not going to be a hero for the fame like you. My only goal is to make the world a safer place for future generations. So instead of charging in with the intent of showing off just to prove that you're better than everyone else, maybe you should plan on doing your damn job, neutralizing threats, and protecting people. Until then, I don't think you're cut out to be a hero, he firmly stated, leaving Bakugo to recoil from Ranger's words. The hot-headed blonde quickly grew irritated at this quirkless bastard lecturing him about being a hero. He wanted to be a hero, but he didn't care about being remembered as one. What the hell was wrong with this guy? Ren, your humility is truly remarkable, Ida said while being impressed by his classmates' lack or inflated pride, and bowed his head in utter respect. Dude. Tetsu was particularly moved by his classmates' humble words, clenching his fist while his body began to lightly shake. Your words are so manly. Even the generally taciturn and quiet Takoyami couldn't help but chime in and express his admiration of his classmates' noble nature. Humble words indeed, Ren. Yep, Yui said with pride and pleasure and looked at him with a smile. That's the kind of guy he is. Stupid class want to show off, acting like he knows everything. Monoma muttered under his breath quietly, as he didn't have the guts to say it out loud after what Yui did to him. You're probably the best student in the entire class, maybe in the whole grade. Manga complimented. Thank you, Ren said before closing his eyes with a smile at his friend's words. Never change who you are, Ren, Hiroka thought while lying happily in his lap. Master, Sayla thought with a ghost of smile, before returning back to her book. Vlad King merely looked on in amusement, thoroughly enjoying how Ren was winning over his classmates easily despite not knowing it. He's going to be one hell of a hero after he graduates. Vlad King thought with grin at how the ranger was incredible for his age. The homeroom teacher of Wanna gazed at the powerful hero force ranger leader. Amamiya was nothing like he'd expected. Being a teacher for these past few years had given him a close-up look into the arrogance and confidence of powerful teenager quirk users, and all of them were obsessed with strengthening their quirk, becoming the best hero they could. But this child, he was nothing like that. Like All Might and the other students, Aizawa simply couldn't help but be drawn towards him, his noble qualities. He figured this was one of the main reasons he was chosen to become a Power Ranger if he had this kind of mentality. Aizawa felt the bus beginning to slow down. He looked to the front, and sure enough, they'd arrived at their destination before standing up. Hey, we're here. Aizawa quickly cut into the conversation, silencing his class. Stop messing around. So be quiet, you maggots, and get ready. Vlad King ordered them, as the bus pulled up to a large dome-like structure. Yes, sirs, whatever, the whole class said to their teachers in unison, with Bakugo letting out a whatever in a more aloof manner as part of him was glad that the ranting stopped. He made a note of exploding the faces of those who insulted him later. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 18. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author GokuMuto on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video, till then goodbye.